across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. Happy and blessed Sunday to you all. I hope you're doing something restful and pleasant in coming towards the end of the bank holiday. But do you know what? You got that bonus day tomorrow, don't you? Well, I don't, but I'm hoping you do. I'm hoping you get to cool your heels and, I don't know, get on the sauce, enjoy what we have of sunshine. Hopefully it's not raining where you are. Do the garden, see your family, watch TV, whatever you fancy. But make sure whatever it is you're planning to do, you let me keep you company, because I would do my best to inform you of what's going on in the news and entertain you and dish out a platter of opinions and have some excellent guests who are going to do the same. And what better way to kick everything off than introducing today's, I like to call them emotional support animals or comfort creatures. So my creature of today is the one and only Mr. Peter Blexley. Hello, creature.
Good morning. I hope I do bring a degree of comfort to you this morning.
Oh, you do. You always bring me comfort.
Thank you.
I don't know why people have XL bullies when they can have a Blexley.
Well, yes, I'm a bit difficult to spread around.
Oh, right. So, do you know, it's one of those days where it's like, this again. And not just this again, you know, on a Sunday you kind of think, where's the new news? Oh, it's about, is Starmer going to stay? Is Starmer going to go? But this again, because have we not done this for the... can't remember a time now where we just had a Prime Minister. It's like, well, that's the Prime Minister, instead of who's going to replace him? Who's plotting? Who's in the running? Are they going to do a vote of no confidence? This is the fourth one in a row. No, hold on. Because Theresa May went early, didn't she?
Yeah.
Fifth in a row. Did Cameron go early? Cameron went early as
Yes.
well. Because when's the last time we had a Prime Minister who just finished a term?
Or went at a time of their choosing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
to be honest, it's not like I'm here, you know, pom-poms out for let's keep Starmer.
No.
But I'm not really pom-poms out for anyone to replace him with either.
No, when you look at the candidates, Burnham, what a snore off this whole Burnham thing has been now. And now, of course, apparently he's got the National Executive on side who are going to allow him to stand as an MP despite Starmer's objections. And, of course, he blocked it last time, didn't he?
Yeah. I thought he was right to block it last time. I must admit, I did think this play in politics of, you know, the man had barely been... I know things are rubbish under the Labour government, but I thought, bit rich, you being, you know, the greater Manchester mayor, go, don't want to do that anymore, want to have a seat instead, think I'm going to do that and become Prime Minister. It's like, excuse me?
But they're all such rampant egotists, these politicians, aren't they? And yet they'll all stand up on TV and say, we joined politics to do better for the greater good. Yeah, righto. They enter politics for themselves. And that's blatantly obvious. Let's take Starmer for a minute.
Right.
And I know it's old news,
yeah,
but it's absolutely relevant. How can you possibly say you have joined politics for the greater good? That at the very first opportunity you get, you freeloading, scrounging piece of garbage, you wear suits and glasses bought for you by somebody else, by a rich benefactor. I mean, are we here today in clothes that we've bought for ourselves? I think we probably are.
Yeah, I got this in the sale, M&S, 10 quid and all.
There you go, you see. Why this kind of... They just lie to us, and they lie to us repeatedly about numerous things, predominantly why I entered politics. Oh, did you enter politics to backstab, to try and climb that pole, to try and reach the pinnacle of politics, or did you join it for the greater good? I think it's the former and not the latter.
We've never had this conversation, right? And I'm like, ooh, I want to pick your detective's brain. I've got a little fuzzy feeling in my fingers or something that might tickle your fancy. So I've got a theory on Starmer and Starmer being PM, because for a long time the Labour Party appears to have been run by a bit of a cartel. Most political parties are, by the way. You know, the factions and the people in power, the men in grey suits, there are people in the Conservative Party no one at home's ever heard of, but they're basically running the Conservative Party, and they're the ones who anoint whoever they want to be the leader. And I think the Labour Party is probably much the same. At least that's what it looks like with the appointment of Lord Mandelson. It's like, oh, I see. This is the way it's going to go, is it?
Yeah.
But with Starmer, there's a little cartel of human rights lawyers. You know, you've got the Lord Hermer thing. The guy's not elected, appointed because he's at the same barristers chambers of Starmer, doing the most unholy of work, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, well, you know, someone's got to represent Shamima Begum and Jerry Adams and go after our soldiers, and do they? Funny that it's always you, innit, Richard?
Yeah.
And then they seem to also be mates with Philip Sands. He of, oh, I'm going to get Mauritian citizenship and declare it a tax-free island, and then work out how we can give them the Chagos Islands and lots of money so they can be tax-free. And I'm like, okay. And I just think there needs to be a bit of detectorism over this, because I keep saying to people in America, for crying out loud, as soon as you're less distracted, subpoena for the files around Chagos. I think there's something in my waters makes me think that this is all interconnected. All these leftist lawyers, Mandelson, China. Do you know when you just get like, you're a detective, you know about hunches, and or am I sort of barking up the wrong tree?
It's driven by self-interest, and you don't have to have worked an hour as a detective to figure that out. It's driven completely by self-interest. Look at Herma and his representation of people who were wronged by our armed service heroes, apparently. What did he do?
Terrorists.
Double the hourly rate or something to 450 quid an hour when he was doing this work? It's self-interest.
Yeah.
It's obvious. They line their pockets. They love ministerial positions because of the cars that come with it, the closer protection that might come with it, the additional salary. Let's not forget that.
Oh, the opportunities in the real world when they say, I've been a Minister of State and I have all these... Because a lot of them do these sort of second jobs, don't they? A bit of consultancy on the side for about, you know, £1,000 an hour. As long as they declare it, that's okay. Yeah. I've always been of the position, pay them more and then say, no other work. Nothing. Nada. That's your job. And you don't have any outside interest at all. For as long as you're sitting on those green benches, that is all you do.
I'm going to fundamentally disagree with you on that front, because there is a Labour MP, a woman whose name I can't remember and who I often fundamentally disagree with, but she also works as an A&E doctor.
Right.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Now, I think that's a great opportunity for her to go into a hospital, put on her scrubs, or whatever they're called, and work and see what it's like on the front line of the NHS.
Yeah.
I think there is a position for it, for some.
Okay, I'm willing to have exceptions
jobs
to my rule, yeah, for some. But it's these people who also sit on the board of a company and this, that and the other, and I'm like, come on. You know, anything could become a conflict of interest. Anything. Just because you sit on this board of the company and that is not your portfolio and it's not your constituency or something or the other, at some point those interests are going to collide. And plus, these days, you know, they moan about having to stay late for this vote and that and the constituency work and the legislation. Like, do you really have time to go and do your consultancy? Do you?
I think it should be compulsory for any MP who has a ministerial position of any kind in the Home Office that they should volunteer as special constables and do 4 hours a week on the front line of policing.
Yeah.
As a special constable, not sergeant, not inspector.
Do you think everyone else as well who has not sort of voted for tightening up our borders should be forced to have a migrant in their home?
Or work on Border Force.
Yeah.
I don't think the Border Force have special constable equivalents. But yeah, let them go down there, ferrying all these people out of the dinghies, ushering them into the UK. Oh, and by the way, 325 entered in 6 dinghies only yesterday. So it takes the total up to about 600 for the last 7 days across 11 dinghies.
I've got to the point now that I think that there needs to be private prosecutions against the government for neglect, essentially, because the horrific rape in Brighton, those 3 disgusting creatures who were put up in that beautiful hotel, leafy sort of countryside, old, you know, Grade 2 listed building in the wilds of West Sussex, a very beautiful area, jacuzzi and all the rest of it. It's got wood panelling, old beams and rafters. You know, they're put up there. No doubt these people, because apparently no one was monitoring where they're going day and night. Clearly, if they can afford to go around all the nightclubs of Brighton, you know, it's not you've got a curfew, you've got to be in now, lad. So they come and go as they please, stay overnight elsewhere if they please. So no one's got any eyes on. They're clearly doing work on the side. If they can be out, you know, getting drunk in nightclubs, you're not living off the, you know, £8 a week or whatever that we have to pay them. You're clearly doing outside work. The average delivery driver earns 150 quid a day. So they're not going to be paying tax, are they, if they're asylum seekers? So let's assume that they're earning 100 quid a day, 5 days a week or whatever. They're taking home 2 grand tax-free, and they don't have to pay any bills. They've got this lovely accommodation, all their food, everything. To get that in the UK, post your bills, post-tax, 2 grand, at the end of the day, you have disposable income. You have to be earning easily at least a 6-figure salary, at least. And then what do they go do with this? Oh, they've come over here to try and pick up all the girls, because I think a lot of them, that's what they come for. One of them, turns out, was wanted for murder in Egypt.
Yep.
Oh, and this wasn't a mystery. That's what he put on his asylum application. There's another one who was wanted in Egypt for being a bomb plotter or something. He raped a woman in Hyde Park. Why are these people, if in the UK you were arrested for a bomb plot or arrested for murder, you wouldn't be allowed to roam the streets. So this is government neglect. This is a lack of consideration for public safety. Those women would not have been attacked if we had a serious immigration policy. And I've got to the stage, I think there needs to be private prosecutions against the government who are making these decisions and not doing anything. I'm sorry if you come in and you say, oh, in my home country, I'm wanted for murder, but it wasn't me. You don't just go, oh, there you go, we believe you. Have a little roam, enjoy your life, lad. You're in Britain now, woohoo. No. They should not be. If I tried to go into one of those migrant hotels, they got security on the door, you know, and they'd make a big deal if I tried to walk on in. So how are these people walking out?
Human rights lawyers like Hermer and Starmer would absolutely say, in you come, have a roam around. Let me mention another coastal town that begins with a B.
Bournemouth.
Yep.
Rape capital of Britain, it seems.
Well, we were there recently.
Oh, gosh.
We were there, and it was astonishing. My wife and I had a few hours to kill, so we were walking around the town, and there were groups of brown and black-skinned men, yes, of fighting age, and they were gathered together, and I would say loitering, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. They seemed to have no specific purpose to what they were doing. And as we were crossing the road, well, as you can imagine, there's over 50 years of policing experience between me and my wife. We're pretty observant about things. And we saw some of the way that these men were looking at women.
That's why they go to the beach.
I mean, it's quite astonishing.
Yeah.
Okay? They bend over almost to the point of making themselves like a right angle.
Oh, the rubbernecking.
Absolutely, yes.
I know that.
Yes, watching these women absolutely leering at them.
I know it.
In a way that made both my wife and I incredibly uncomfortable, not to mention a bit cheesed off about it all. And it was really revolting to see. Now, as a man, as a straight man, of course, I have given a beautiful woman a second glance. Okay, sometimes, you know, you will see a woman and they are just so striking, you may just be walking to get your coffee or go down the tube and you give a second glance. Same as you would do if something extraordinary or unusual happened. This was not.
I know it, Peter.
that.
I have had it. This is why I had to get out of London, because it got to the point when I lived in Earl's Court, if I went to go to Little Sainsbury's on Earl's Court Road, it would just, like, the rubbernecking. And what's more, OK, so when you've got a man in the UK who wants to chat up a woman, they're pretty bad at it, by the way, most of them don't even try anymore, but it will be a sort of like, all right, love, blah, 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 and if you sort of go like, look, sorry, they walk off. The problem with these guys, they're persistent. They follow. They're right in your space. And they try... When you read the lines that these guys were using in the clubs, kiss me, I love you, I want to give you babies, give me a kiss. I'm sorry. These men are coming over, I think a lot of them. They're not coming over necessarily to commit terror attacks. Yes, they're coming to, like, fill their pockets at the expense of UK taxpayer. But believe you me, there are people coming from these Middle Eastern, North African countries where the sight of an ankle in their own land is too much titillation. That would have a woman stoned to death. They come because they want to get women. That's why. And they think that we're dirty, filthy, the types you see in pornography. We're not like their mothers back at home or their sisters who wear the hijabs and the burqas. Oh, no, it's a free-for-all over here. Which is why you keep seeing the attacks time and time again. Brighton Beach, Bournemouth Beach. Oh, do you think they're going down to the seaside because we got such great weather? Of course not.
No.
We know why they're doing it. I'm sorry, these men, as far as I'm concerned, okay, not all of them, but too many of them, quite frankly, are rape tourists.
And they are not being stopped.
Nope.
And how many do we have now collectively?
Oh, I know we got 185 migrant hotels, and Lord knows about the HMOs and all the rest of it.
Well, of course, this government commits to closing the hotels. So what are they going to do?
Oh, let's just stick them down in neighbourhoods.
They are already putting them in HMOs. Pubs that have had to close because of the dreadful state of the economy and the fact that so many people that come into this country now don't drink alcohol and won't frequent pubs. So they're being closed, and many of those are being quickly and rather shoddily turned into HMOs. And these are in our communities.
It's not right.
What is being done? It is
Evil.
Absolutely dangerous.
Yeah.
It is reckless. And let's all remember, this will come as no surprise to anyone in this building or your wonderful audience, a government's first priority is to protect its people and its nation.
Right.
And they are fundamentally failing hugely. In fact, almost to the point of
you know what? Do you know what drives
complicit.
me mad? When people go, well, you know, what can we do? This treaty, we can't do. Apparently now, when in our government, we've got the world's best international human rights lawyers. If they can't unpick the legislation, with a big majority in the House of Commons, let's not forget, if they can't unpick the legislation, if they can't annul elements of treaties, if they can't dispose of parts of the Human Rights Act or say we're not going to follow this anymore, sorry, this needs a rethink, dear ECHR, by the way, this is our area of expertise. In theory, we've got exactly the government that should be able to deal with this. All the excuses of the Conservative government, well, legal this, legal that. Guess what? We're run by these lawyers now. So if they can't do it, who can? They don't want to.
Exactly, because they're ideologically, they're kind of on their side. Let them come in. And I completely understand why so many people will say this is part of a greater scheme to actually kind of destroy the whiteness of England, of Britain, because it sticks in the back of the throats of so many of the lunatic left. They actually want millions of people to come in. And let's not leave Johnson out of here while we're pointing fingers and shedding blame. Okay, that wave that he left in. But there's far not more important, but many other issues concerned with it. Let me give you an example the other day, and this is broader. I'm talking about the whole immigration issue as it is. There was a fire in a mental health unit at a hospital recently. Firefighters attended in considerable numbers because there were, of course, many potentially very difficult aspects to a fire in a hospital. So many of the staff did not have English as a first language, that firefighters had difficulty in communicating their instructions to members of staff. And this comes in the week when this stupid government is putting out to tender for those who want to come into this country English tests to do them online.
Oh yeah, that you can just literally have your mate do it for you, or sit in that like, you know, use AI, or I know,
or have a covert earpiece in.
It's madness,
and all that kind of stuff.
It's only going to get worse. Oh, I think we're ready for our first break, aren't we? After all that,
well,
Limerick, is it time for a drink already? Right, let's take a breather. It's definitely time for a cup of tea. We'll see you just after this.
scum fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Hello and welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McGowan.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raise move.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. I forgot to do my housekeeping, which is to tell you that if you want to get in touch with us here, oh, we'd love to speak to someone, wouldn't we, Peter, at any point?
Oh, gladly.
Look, I mean, he's a pussycat, really. He doesn't bite. Well, he does, but he can't bite you over the phone. 03444 99 1000 is the number to dial. It's your normal network rate. Nope, not Rip Off Britain here. It is free to come and join our therapy session. You can also send a message to that number on WhatsApp or leave us a voice note. 87222 is the number for texting us. Oh, gosh, I hate the word texting. Anyway, write the word talk before you text. That, honestly, it grinds my gears. Text is a noun. It's a thing. It's text. You can't just put ing on the end and be like, oh, I'm newspapering. Sorry, just grammatically hate it. You send a text. Sorry about that, bit of a pedant sometimes. Oh, what do we... Polanski.
Ah.
So he's just been on Sky News, hasn't he? I haven't had time to watch it because, well, been preparing for this. This man has gotten... What? If this was a different party and they were running around making the sort of comments and doing the sort of things that the Green Party do, there would be uproar, there'd be far right, they wouldn't be allowed onto any shows. They wouldn't be giving a lovey-dovey reception by the BBC and by Sky. And for so long, this sort of elitist class have thought, oh, isn't it lovely? Oh, the Green Party is so gorgeous. The young people just love him. He's so inspiring. Look at him doing his LGBTQ dance on stage and they love the Muslims. This is what a utopian Britain looks like. Isn't this marvellous? And so nobody has gone, have you not noticed the man is seemingly, to my eyes, in my opinion, a compulsive liar? Some sort of mad narcissist who either has to be at drama school or standing as a candidate here, now leader of a party, and harbours amongst his people the sort of horrible attitudes that warrant arrest, because a couple of his candidates have now been nicked for racist comments. The man is grotesque, and yet he has been wantonly platformed. So now, of course, we've got to go to Zach Polanski because, you know, David Paulden, the wonderful Jew he is himself, must be an authority on whether or not these pro-Palestine marches should be banned. And you know what he's had the neck to say? It's a distortion to say pro-Palestine marches make Jews unsafe. A distortion. There are times when Jewish people, including myself, oh, couldn't wait to get that one in, could he? Are actively unsafe. That's clearly true, and it's always been true. There's also times where we hear marches, Palestinian marches, that I, as a Jewish person, walk on, where Jewish people say that makes them feel unsafe. Now, I don't think that actually makes them unsafe, clearly, because I'm a Jewish... I can't even. I can't.
There is something that Zach Polanski could really be doing with his political career to benefit the people of Britain. And that is smiling to the camera whilst talking about the crisis in getting a dental appointment. He would really, he'd be a great poster boy for the fact that people can't get dental appointments. And it would help. That would be something useful. Perhaps the government would do more to help people, because obviously his Hampsteads are awful. But anyway, moving away from the cosmetics of things, we remember the Green Party when they were concerned about environmental matters, and they had one MP invariably in Brighton, and they were fine, and they were generally like Guardian reading, lentil munching sort of people that wore crocheted tops.
Yogurt knitters.
Yeah, exactly. And were concerned about the environment. But now it has turned into a sinister organisation, which is a hotbed for every far left lunatic nut job. It really has become absolutely bizarre what it's morphed into in a very short space of time, with him at the helm.
It's sinister. And I mean, when it comes to the far left, I noticed the other day when, you know, disgustingly another attack against our Jews, our British Jews. So really, it upsets me so much. No one should have to live like they're living right now. And he's normalising. I'm a Jewish person. I go on those marches. Like, I cannot. If he walked into this room right now, I'd have to sit on my hands, Peter. I'm so disgusted by that. But, you know...
The man is a fool, but unfortunately, he's evil. A dangerous fool, in so much as that he is clearly making the Green Party more popular, which is bizarre in itself, and he's making it a collective of absolute extremes, dangerous.
That's what I was going to ask.
Really dangerous extremes.
So the other day, after the horrific attack, yet again in Golders Green, the Home Office put up, because we're now under sort of specialist terror measures, high alert or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And the Home Office put up a post. They couldn't help themselves, could they? Oh, we've had to change the terror threat level because of the increased risk of Islamist and far-right terror attacks. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about all those skinheads going around stabbing people that I'm seeing on the front pages of all the newspapers. Because, of course, just one of those attacks, it's all we would talk about for weeks. So clearly, it ain't happening that much. But what is happening, and all of this stuff, to me, the apex predator in all of this is the far left. Who are the people bludgeoning a police person over the head with a hammer? Palestine action. Who are the people handing out all of these placards at the pro-Palestine marches? Who are the people blocking ambulances because they think that's somehow going to stop the world setting on fire? Far left, far left, far left. If there was no far left, there would be no Islamism to the level it is now, because they are the enablers and the promoters. The far left, frankly, I think, needs to be fully investigated. Who's funding it? What is the foreign influence? How are they using it to divide society? A lot of this stuff, I'm pretty sure, is a foreign-controlled psyop being mediated across social media. And yet we don't speak about the far left. No, it's this phantom far right we need to worry about, even where there is far right, because I have seen a huge uptick in racism online. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It is largely, I would say, an effect, a symptom of there being the far left. And yet no one talks about that.
Extremes draw extremes. They encourage extremes, unfortunately. I remember Britain, this country in which I've lived for 66 and a half years. I remember when we lived in a suburban, South London suburb, in my childhood, and people would put up a poster as an election loomed, and generally speaking it would be the Conservatives or Labour or Liberal, and that would be as much as people would kind of display their allegiances. And a lot of people didn't want to do it, but some would. And you could see neighbouring homes, one with Tory, one with Labour, or one with the Liberal Party as they were. And people might discuss and debate politics, either whilst polishing the front doorstep, I kid you not, or over the garden fence, in a neighbourly, respectful, polite kind of manner. And they'd sit side by side on the 737 to Charing Cross the following morning, and people, by and large, got on in a respectful, happy, post-war Britain.
High-trust, monocultural society. That's what it comes down to. We're going to take another break. I'm so appalled. I just really can't get those words out of my head. As a Jew myself, I've been on plenty of those. People have been stabbed. People at synagogues in Manchester, which people are trying to get explosive. How dare you make this about you and become the spokesman on behalf of the whole Jewish community, you disgusting, cynical, narcissistic, vile, base fraud. What a horrible monster that man is. Right, going to take a short break and we're going to talk more on this subject because it's very important and we are in a whole world of pain, quite frankly. The Jewish community are in a whole world of pain. And if no one does anything, things are going to get much worse. We're going to be picking up on that just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, Peter. Right, let's try and get
Alex.
through some of this stuff. Starmer says some pro-Palestinian protests should be banned. Some. Why? Which ones? How are you going to pick that? And that there needs to be tougher policing of language. No. There just need to be none of these disgusting marches. I'm sorry, it's nothing to do with this country. You want to go and protest about what's going on in Gaza, go to blimmin' Gaza. Don't come and do it here. It's my view.
Okay, I will be a bit picky about the wording that's used because gatherings cannot be banned. Marches can, or they can be altered to become, they can be made to be static protests, as the legislation at the moment stands. So when Starmer says, you know, protests to be banned, what he means is he'll make a march or suggest to the Met that a march is not a march and a march is a static gathering.
Yeah.
And it's only right that you can't ban static gatherings because then none of us would be able to stand and protest about anything anywhere. So that's absolutely right.
I don't see there anything wrong with saying, right, if your issue is something that the UK government's doing, fill your boots. But this is nothing to do with us. This is, I'm sorry, but this is a...
No, I don't think we can cherry pick what... we can't... It flies in the face of freedom of speech if we say you can protest about this, but you can't protest about that.
I don't care anymore about that.
But no, we'll have a lively conversation about it then.
I just want these things gone. Other countries in Europe banned them because the thing is, what it is doing, and this is, you know, I agree with what Kemi Badenoch has said, which is anti-Semitism has become acceptable at dinner parties because these, you know, joyful, gorgeous little jamborees. We saw it after Brexit. It's largely a load of women who sort of, you know, missed out on youth and now they're sort of, they feel that they've got to go and join some sort of, you know, Glastonbury-esque festival on the streets and look at me, aren't I virtuous? It's narcissism, basically.
Yeah.
But it is normalising This idea that Israel's evil, that Jewish people are evil, and it is having a real-world effect. And so when it comes to that situation, and also I remember years ago, I think it was when the Tories were in power, the government's counter-extremism czar, a man by the name of Robin Simcox, basically suggesting that the people who are behind this is spreading the propaganda of the IRGC, right? People coordinating, corralling, amplifying, feeding off, promoting hostile states, Islamist states, terrorist states. So I'm sorry, these things taking place is having a real-world effect. So when it comes to the balance of, look, I love a bit of freedom of speech, but when it comes to the balance of poisoning a society, spreading this cancer of anti-Semitism, enabling terrorist regimes like Iran to play games in our country, to divide society, to weave their evil narratives widely amongst the population, all of a sudden, when I weigh it up like this, I'm like, well, I do like a bit of freedom of speech, but I don't want Jewish people stabbed anymore. And this is the problem. It has become trendy. It has become normalised, globalised. I mean, I shouldn't even have to have learnt the word intifada. I shouldn't even have to try and explain what from the river to the sea means. This is just, it's preposterous.
I'll save my replies for when we're on air, but there is a solution that I put forward to everything that you've just spoken about.
Right.
And it protects our freedom of speech.
Right. All right. Talking about protecting things, apparently former servicemen among staff engaged by the Community Security Trust to guard Jewish sites. Former Royal Marines and veterans of the Parachute Regiment have been hired to protect synagogues and Jewish schools. I'm glad that they're there. Thank you for your service to the people doing this and who are now protecting our Jewish community. But how have we got to the point that we live in a nation where kiddies in school are having to have armed guards because we've imported a really sickness?
OK, there is a way that we can tackle such matters. Firstly, let's have this government prescribe the IRGC.
Yep.
OK? That's a stroke of a pen job, really, to suddenly make that.
Do you reckon Richard Hermer, our appointed Attorney General, who actually had clients connected to the IRGC, who he was, you know, supporting to help sue the UK government and our brave military men and women, do you think that's, you know, up his strasser to prescribe them?
Well, he'd have to answer for that, but I suspect possibly not. But it can be done. The Prime Minister can ensure that the legislation goes in front of Parliament and that is done fairly swiftly. It could be done Tuesday, for example.
Emergency legislation could have been done years ago.
It really could be done.
And the Muslim Brotherhood.
And it should be done. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. But let's just rewind to the start of these pro-Palestine marches after the dreadful events of
as soon
October
as that massacre had happened, their march was already organised.
Yes, indeed. But what did the Metropolitan Police do? They appeased those marchers. They appeased those who were chanting genocidal chants. They did not move in. They did not arrest them. And what does appeasement equate to? Empowering people. So we can protect our freedom of speech. I don't want my freedom of speech in any way, shape or form trampled on because of these revolting people. I want the government and the police to act effectively like they should do. Prescribe the organisation. Do not appease people who go onto the streets of London and call for genocide. Nick them, shove them in a van, take them to a police station, get the evidence and make sure they get charged.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree, but this has gone on so long now, hasn't it? There's so many people doing it. It's become so normalised. Mind you, didn't they manage it after Southport? Oh, when the government wants to move, when Lord Hermer thinks it's great to have televised trials for the things people are writing online or saying in protest, turns around, he can, like, roll his sleeves up and get the job done, can't he? But this? No.
No, but this is the frustration that I'm sure many, many people feel, is that we've now got Starmer saying we have to do something about
You're
this
the
protest.
Prime Minister, do it!
You, me, everybody on this station was saying that 2 years ago when these protests became what they became. And yet he is so slow to grasp the nettle because he's too busy playing politics, trying to protect his position and his pension and the such like, that he does not, because he doesn't have any commitment. He's not a conviction politician. He doesn't have beliefs that run through him that he is utterly committed to, he gets blown by the political wind, and he's always playing catch-up, which is why he is such an appalling Prime Minister and such a dreadful politician, and why he has done so much harm to this country. A firm, effective, committed Prime Minister would have banned the IRGC the minute they got into Downing Street, and would have ensured that people chanting genocidal chants on the streets of London were properly and effectively dealt with by the police. And again, you see Rowley in the Metropolitan Police. Again, a police chief who tries to play the politics and will only act when it's too blooming late. If they had a scintilla of the foresight that presenters and contributors on this station had, they would have dealt with these matters years ago, because that's what you, I and everybody else who's occupied these seats have been calling for a very, very long time.
What we have now in the United Kingdom, I mean, people in the UAE don't want to send their kids to university here. They're Muslim kids because they think they'll come back terrorists.
Yes.
The Muslim world looks at us and goes, what are you doing? We have allowed the most frightening, debased, vile ideology to not just take root here, but to spread unencumbered. And I think that, you know, this whole idea, wow, we'd better not offend people. I'm sorry, I've got to the stage. If you've got a mosque, right, we're going to have a camera in that. We're going to be monitoring what you're saying. Oh, preach what you like. We're not going to stop people attending a mosque, but we need to have eyes on. If that offends you, I'm sorry, what are you saying that we're not going to like? You know, my church service at 11:30 is broadcast live online, because guess what? In my lovely, happy, clappy Christian church, we're not calling Jewish people foul names or talking about jihad or, you know, killing enemies or whatever might be going on in some of these establishments. We need to look at the funding, where you're getting your money from. All of these things. We have beatified an alien culture, okay? I don't mean little green men alien, I mean a culture that isn't inherent to this land. We have beatified it. We have put it on a pedestal, and all the while our own culture, we are besmirching, destroying, demonising, and then people suddenly go, oh, wow, look what's happened. Jews are getting stabbed. Oh, British people think there's going to be rioting this summer. I wonder why. Was this not so predictable?
But along the way, with unfettered immigration, for example, and non-existent borders, and all of the danger that has been imported into our country entirely unnecessarily, what we've done is we have put the prisons under pressure, okay? Around about 12% of the prison population are foreigners, right? If we got rid of that, if we didn't even have that cohort of prisoners, there would be space to lock the types of Hugh Edwards up.
Yeah, we got all our own wrong uns, we don't need theirs.
Exactly, and the whole post-war systems that we have in terms of school, roads, education, military, policing, hospitals, they were all designed for our post-war population to grow. It was factored in, and so there was expansion of all those things. What it was not designed for was to carry the burden of an extra million upon millions of people coming into this country. None of those systems were robust enough to cater for all the millions of people that have come in. That's the pressure. That's where it's come from. Us,
and then on top of that,
British people,
we've got this added pressure, and then at the same time we've got public-facing employees who feel that they can't do anything if the perpetrator happens to be from a different country, because that's racism, or that is, you know, some form of xenophobia or Islamophobia. It's just...
Sorry.
Yeah, let's take
another break, are we?
Well, hold that thought, because we're going to be back very, very shortly.
flag, I think, is...
Is Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Hello and welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm sorry, there's been a murder. Peter Blexley and I are currently filling our faces with the carrion of Colin the Caterpillar, because it's Tekop's birthday. Well, it was his birthday yesterday, but he kept it quiet. So happy birthday, Tekop. And look, I've got Colin's foot.
Marvellous.
Yeah. Delicious. Right, we're going to be catching up with Helen Whately shortly, who is the Conservative MP and Shadow Department of Work and Pensions. So we're going to be asking her opinions on all things politics. But before that, let's pick up on what we were talking about before, with this idea that not only has immigration put so much pressure on prisons, on policing, on all of this stuff, but the extra layer of absurdity on top of this is the fact that even when prison officers or police are trying to engage with things, they constantly have hanging over them this worry that if they say or do something that might seem... I mean, we saw it the other day with... the police apprehending the Golders Green stabber. And of course it goes like, well, you know, police must be doing something racist because of the colour of that man's skin.
Well, somebody's been charged in relation to that, so I'm not going to go anywhere near it. Yeah, we can't talk about it, But if anybody wants to, sadly, see a prime example of this nation's decline, then tune in on Tuesday to the Nottinghamshire inquiry, which is currently ongoing, into the murderous rampage of Valdo Calacane, a man who should not have been on the streets of Britain and able to snuff out lives of beautiful people. Ian, Grace, Barnaby, and of course the other people that he so severely injured. It's symptomatic of this pathetic, box-ticking, woke, political correctness kind of nonsense that pervades through so many of our public services, all of them. And the tentacles started to reach very deep under Blair back in '97. It was called a political correctness movement. Actually, it was something much more perverse than that. It was dragging the country ever more to the left, and I think in the process willingly dismantling so much of which was British and what had made this nation a once great thing. And now people that work in these services are in it for the money. They're not in it because they have an absolute commitment to do their bit for this country. And I mean in the public services here. There has been, as the sense of Britishness has been diluted so much, so has that sense of commitment to your nation, that you work to be a part of it because you're proud of it, because you feel British. You can say you're British. You'll wear Union Jack swimming trunks on holiday just to display your British.
What's a mental image I just had there?
To the Spanish waiters who you adore and you're very grateful to for giving you a wonderful holiday. We exported our pride in Britain. I know we did it through crusades and all that years ago, and there's question marks over that. But I'm talking about the Britain I know, the Britain that I've lived in since being born in 1959. And it has been diluted now. And we've got to the point where so many people, they get a job in public services. It's not about what can I do to benefit this nation and get paid along the way. No, it's how much can I get paid, how many boxes can I tick, and how quickly can I get home.
It is so selfish and weak, these people who go along with this absolute rot. And it's got to the stage now, because you talk about the Valdo Calacane inquiry. We've just had the Southport inquiry, haven't we? The same failings. And, you know, anyone of any colour can be a monster. I'm from Gloucester. I know that.
Yes,
I know. You know, Fred and Rose West didn't come over on dinghies.
No.
They're homegrown. And I don't care about the package. What I care about is the content. I care about moral character. I care about upbringing. I care about culture. I care about decency. But when you have a situation where all of a sudden people are being judged by the colour of their skin, i.e. we can't deal with this person because they're a minority, it actually now is leading to death. This whole anti-racism movement, which frankly I consider to be racism, last time I checked, Martin Luther said, you know, let's not judge people by the colour of the skin, not let's put people in lots of different boxes and play identity politics. It's now making the country unsafe. There are people who have died as a direct consequence of this garbage. And it's not making us a more tolerant society. It's not making us walk around the world and have conversations at the water cooler with people of all different backgrounds who are our colleagues and our friends and our neighbours and family members, OK? Plenty of families out here are mixed, mine included. And it is not making us a happy utopian collective. It is making us pigeonhole people based upon the colour of their skin. It's making us distort the rule of law. It's toxic. It is a poison.
My generation were taught, were told, were threatened, ditch your racism, right?
Yeah.
And we did.
Exactly.
Okay? When I was at school, I went to secondary school in 1971, OK? Some of the activities that certain boys would get up to on a Friday night when they caught the bus down to Woolwich were utterly deplorable.
Yeah.
But we were taught, we really were the generation that grew up and ditched it and embraced.
And then we've just brought it all back up.
And embraced. But it was managed immigration.
Yeah.
There was a purpose to people coming into this country.
And there was integration.
And whilst we had our problems, my generation, were taught, pack it in, behave yourselves, and they became our friends, our family members, our sporting heroes.
Our neighbours, exactly. Listen, we've got to move on now because we are now joined by Helen Whately, MP. Helen, thank you ever so much for coming on the programme today. Now, let's first of all start off with the suggestion, the sort of half-hearted measures that our Prime Minister is talking about when it comes to banning pro-Palestine marches, suggesting that some should be banned, but actually that we need to crack down and have tougher policing on language used during these marches. Is that going far enough?
I don't think the Prime Minister is nearly strong enough on tackling anti-Semitism. It's a huge problem. We've gone from being a country which was tolerant, and if you were Jewish you could live here in safety, going about your life just like everybody else, to, and I know, and I talk to Jewish friends about this, now feeling unsafe. That is not how we want the UK to be, and that needs to be fixed, and the person in charge, of course, is Keir Starmer. He has not been nearly robust enough on it. Kemi Badenoch has said she wants this to be treated as a national emergency, the rise in anti-Semitism. She wants to see much more visible policing, much more policing in areas where Jewish communities might be under threat. She wants to see rapid armed response teams much more readily available in the awful situation when they are needed, and she wants to see a ban on these pro-Palestine hate marches.
What about in terms of where children are being suggested certain things in schools? We've heard about anti-Semitism in classrooms. We see it in university campuses. Would the Conservative Party go as far as looking into that? And what might they do there?
Yes, we've got a review going on looking at cultural cohesion in the UK, which will report back at our party conference in October, looking deeply at some of these questions and what we do to make sure that we've got a tolerant society and a cohesive society where first and foremost we will live by British values. And something has gone very wrong in recent years, and as I say, you know, coming to a peak with the rise of anti-Semitism and these hate marches, as you've just mentioned, some of the scenes that we've seen in universities. I know I've heard Jewish students who feel that they are, you know, threatened when they're at university, and children, Jewish children being taken out of schools, again because of that in schools. This is truly awful. This is not the country that I want to live in, and action must be taken.
Funny you called them hate marches. I remember when Suella Braverman, who's now in Reform UK, first used those terms. She was widely condemned by people in your political party. Let us talk now, because I think what you've wanted to come on to talk about, so let's talk about this, is benefits today. We know we live in a country where actually we spend more on welfare than we garner from working taxpayers, which is utterly unsustainable. Nigel Farage has written a big piece today in the Mail on this topic. As Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary, tell us about your plans to actually tackle this unsustainable problem.
Completely. So welfare spending is out of control. At the moment, there are tens of thousands of households who are getting over £50,000 a year in income from benefits. You would have to earn at least £65,000 to have the equivalent income. That puts those households on benefits in the top 10% of earners, but being paid for by hard-working taxpayers. So that's clearly not fair, and it's not something that we as a country can afford. As Conservatives, we have announced plans to save £23 billion from the welfare bill. We've announced that we would stop sickness benefits for people with mild conditions like anxiety and ADHD. We've announced that we would stop benefits for foreigners to whom we owe no obligation. And today we're making another announcement which will save £1 billion, which is to toughen up the limit on the amount that households and benefits can receive in income. That's called the household benefit cap, and we're going to toughen it up, because at the moment you've got a situation where you can be exempt from that cap if somebody in your household, for instance, is an adult who could work but is not working. We're going to say that if there's somebody in a household who could be working, they should, because that is only fair and it's only right. We've got to have it so that if you're working, you're better off than somebody on benefits.
What about people who are on sick leave for mental health disorders, or what they might claim to be something which is so destabilising that they're unable to go into the workplace?
Well, I'm thoughtful about this, and I say this having come into politics as a campaigner on mental health and wanting to see better care in the NHS for people with serious mental illness. That's things like schizophrenia, psychosis, serious depression. These are serious illnesses and need to be treated as such. But something different has happened in our country in the last few years, where what we're seeing is a huge rise in people claiming sickness benefits for things like anxiety, mild depression, ADHD, things where actually not only can you often work, but you are usually better off in work. But instead, people in that situation are being signed off sick. That's not good for them. It's also not affordable for our country. And we have identified that you'll be able to save between £7 and £9 billion a year by stopping this. And as I said, it will be better for the individuals too, because usually being at work is better for your health anyway.
What about the so-called sickfluencers? Because I'm reading about it more regularly these days, people using platforms such as TikTok to show people how to game the system, the answers they must give. Doctors, GPs, as you well know, are dreadfully under pressure. It's impossible to get an appointment. And so when they've got a script to follow and someone comes in and says X, Y and Z because they've been coached to do so, how do you then tackle that?
You're absolutely right. We have called for sickfluencers to be banned. We even tabled an amendment in a legislation last year to make it an offence to be a sickfluencer. Unfortunately, the Labour government, Labour MPs voted that down, so that didn't go into law. But we still want it to be the law that you are not allowed to be a sickfluencer and essentially be coaching people to get around the benefit system. In fact, there are even like VIP services where you can pay for somebody to fill in your forms for you and give you the answers. Now, that is clearly completely wrong. It's one of the ways in which our system is completely broken. We've also said we want to reform fit notes. It's simply not right that people can just literally sometimes just call up their doctor, and GPs are giving them fit notes. We know that GPs are working incredibly hard. We need them to be spending their time treating people, helping people get well, not signing off on these sick notes. And we also said that we must bring back face-to-face assessment. So you shouldn't be able to get the sickness benefits unless you've actually been seen in person to make sure that you actually need the help that you're being offered.
Helen Waitley, thank you ever so much for joining us today. OK, on that note, we've sort of slightly overrun our top of the hour advert break, so we're going to be taking that now, but don't go anywhere because Peter Blexley and I are going to be back, and after the break we're joined by the brilliant Philip Kisserly, Senior Fellow from the New Culture Forum, and the three of us are going to have a good old chinwag and get a few things off our chest. I think you know what about, so do please join us because it's going to be time for some more communal catharsis just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, listen to that music, Peter. So take a deep breath, shall we? And exhale. I say that because we're about to get a clip from Zach Polanski, and I thought my anger had peaked earlier when I screwed up that piece of paper and lobbed it across the studio. But I actually have in front of me, the lovely Faith has kindly printed off what he has just said in his interview in Sky News, and I think there's more ire in the tank. Let's remind ourselves of what we're talking about here. There is an active charge, so we're not going to talk about the alleged suspect, the Golders Green stabbing, but what we can talk about is the fact that when the police apprehended somebody after that attack, someone had put online something along the lines of, look at the police, this man's got mental health issues, suggesting it is sort of overzealous, let's say. And with an under sort of tone of suggesting there could be a racist element. Didn't say it out loud, but you know what I'm talking about, because it's a tune we've all heard played many a time. And Mr. Polanski saw it fit to retweet this because he thought this was the right thing to do, to coin a favourite term of the left wing. He thought that, you know, never seen a victim that he doesn't want to support when they are from some sort of minority. What better way to express my moral virtue than point out that the police are monsters who should be defunded, who are, you know, in every single case, some sort of, you know, feral, evil, you know, neck kneelers. So there he goes, retweeting this, immediately in the wake of this violent, vicious stabbing. And Mark Rowley rightly called him up on it.
Yeah.
And said, how dare you do this? You know, these police were actively trying to prevent stabbings, for crying out loud. There was even, I think at the time, an idea that there could be other things going on in terms of increasing the threat. And so, you know, he took a while, didn't he, to make his apology. So he's been asked about that today. Let's play the clip, shall we? And I'm just going, I'm going to take a deep breath while I listen. I suggest you do as well.
I think you can both recognise the bravery of officers who run towards incidents that most of us, including myself, would certainly want to run away from, and find the appropriate forum to say that no one, especially the police, should be above scrutiny. The reason why I've apologised is I accept that wasn't the appropriate forum. As a member of the London Assembly, a place I know you know well, the Police and Crime Committee would be an appropriate place, or indeed a meeting with the Commissioner, which I'm pleased I've reached out and he's now agreed to. I do also think, by the way, open letters aren't an appropriate way to do politics either in a local election, but I accept all of that and I'll be having that conversation with the Commissioner.
That's not an apology. It sounds to me like he wants to take up this issue and, you know, the police aren't above scrutiny. He wants a meeting with the Commissioner. He's reached out to her, now he's got an agreement. He's gonna...
Put it this way.
I am shaking.
If Polanski and Sir Mark Rowley have a meeting and have a conversation around the proportionality of force, about the use of reasonable force, about the necessity of force when facing threats, Rowley will absolutely rinse him. And I sincerely hope that minutes are kept and that they're made public. Polanski is a clown. He is an absolute fool. And
monster.
He is dangerous because so many of the lunatic left have flocked to him. Why? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, my kids, for example, are absolutely scathing of him, and they're not long out of university. You know, we know what hotbeds of left-wing, like, indoctrination so many of our universities are, but even they, having entered the workplace very soon, very quickly, fortunately, drop that ideology that gets drummed into them at university as they discover the harsh realities of getting a job, earning money, paying bills, cost of living, etc. And they just look at him as an absolute joke figure.
But this is, you know, you have been a serving police officer, and we've spoken about this time and time again with firearms officers put on murder charges. You know, the fact that the police are being restricted in being able to carry out their duties in the line of, you know, in dangerous circumstances.
They're not restricted. I've got to stop you, Alex. They're not being restricted, OK? It's just that certain commentators would want to restrict them. They're not. This is nonsense. This is noise. Just ignore it. The Commissioner of Metropolitan Police, Rowley shouldn't even have written to Polanski.
He shouldn't be having a blooming meeting. He should be nothing to see here. My office were doing their jobs. Shut your trap.
He can put out a very easy one-liner. The bloke doesn't know anything he's talking about. And just leave it at that.
I mean, Zach Polanski's not apologising. He now wants to conduct a witch hunt against those.
He's not worthy of having a meeting with him. The bloke's an absolute idiot.
It's disgusting.
I wouldn't waste time. I'm sure Rowley's got better things to do than spend time in the company of Polanski. He's a politician. Rowley, get on with policing, not politicking.
Do not entertain this man's perverse, twisted actions.
Exactly.
Right, let's bring in Philip Kisley, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. So Zach Polanski, I don't think I've seen the word sorry in this, but he seems to be saying, oh, well, bravery of officers who run towards incidents. But he says that nobody, especially police, should be above scrutiny. And he says, the reason why I've apologised is, get this, not because he got it wrong, not because when these officers were trying to prevent people being stabbed by apprehending a very, very dangerous out-of-control person. No, he's apologised because it wasn't the appropriate forum, but don't worry, he's got the appropriate forum now because he's demanded a meeting with the Commissioner, which he's agreed to. How dare these people do this stuff? They're sick. Philip, please, I can't anymore. I can't.
I know, it's just so frustrating, annoying, and you just kind of want to grab these people by the scruff of the neck and shake sense into them, but you're never going to be able to do that. I almost wish defunding, if it didn't affect everybody else, I almost wish defunding of the police on these lunatics. So the day after that happens, someone can just invade their house and take everything they have without any kind of consequence. Oh, we might sit the perpetrators down and do an interventionist dance routine to help them come to terms with their aggressive tendencies. This is literally what they are talking about, Alex. They are talking about law and order just going by the wayside, and they are doing that when they are looking at terrorist attacks. I'm not singling one single thing out here, but someone who attacks people in the street with a knife may have explosives round his middle as well. So what you need to do is make sure that that threat is taken out. Now, if you are just petitioning the British people and saying that we do not need British police force, then you're just wishing harm on those people, and that's what we need to communicate. I think the best thing to do here is to let him say this stuff, give him the oxygen of publicity so people know what kind of utter dangerous lunatic he is. I think one Labour MP just said, oh, we mustn't take him seriously. No, we must take him very seriously, because he is perhaps the biggest threat to this country, because essentially he speaks for extremism. He is the mouthpiece, the symbol of extremism in this country. He speaks for people who want to harm, and he wants to dismantle the mechanisms of security.
But my heart goes out to policemen and women on the front line when they've done something enormously brave. Of course, he pays lip service to that. And having prevented a mass casualty event, they're then hauled into an office because some stuck-up, posing, prancing, perverse egoist like Polanski has wanted to sort of shower himself in moral superiority by suggesting that their apprehension of that violent, dangerous human being
Hang on.
But
can you both, you and Philip, stop now? Somebody's been charged. Okay,
no, yeah.
Let's stop this. Let's have some responsible broadcasting.
Right, but
don't
let's
mention
talk
the
about,
case.
Right. No, but we do have to talk about the fact that he said these men and women ran into a situation of danger, okay? And he now is talking about wanting to, essentially look if they were doing something wrong.
Okay, well,
I don't get that.
I'm the person on this station who's been stabbed in the neck during the course of policing, who's stood down, who's faced down firearms on more occasions than I care to mention, and has come across a whole heap of violence during my policing career. As for getting your knickers in a twist over Polanski, he's not dangerous, he's an irrelevancy. He's an absolutely pathetic creature. He has massive. Forgive me for talking while you're interrupting, Philip, right? But the less we talk about him, the better. He's an irrelevancy. He's a nut job. Move on. There's more important things to talk about in the world of politics than Polanski. He's a pathetic creature. People are increasingly, as they see and hear about him and learn about him, treating him as he should be treated, as an utter irrelevancy.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I wouldn't mind a world devoid of talking about that human being. So let's move on, because he's getting under everyone's skin this morning. let's talk about the idea of Prime Minister Andy Burnham, shall we? Because it seems to me that, you know, the cogs are turning in the Labour Party, that the NEC is not going to stand in the way of him if he finds a constituency to fight where an MP steps down, triggering a by-election that he believes he can win. But I think what's important here is, as we look upon who might replace Sir Keir Starmer, is what would that government look like? What is their agenda? How might things change? So, on Guido Fawkes, they have gone through articles he's done and interviews he's done, which lay out some of his policies. So let's talk about some of these. He might want to rejoin the European Union. He might want to break fiscal rules to borrow more for defence. He might want to extend devolution, including tax-raising powers for the governments of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, introduce a wealth tax, nationalise all utilities, a land value tax, council tax revaluation, national care service, rollout of nationalised bus franchising, a £2 single fare bus cap. I mean, some of these things sound really nice, building more council houses, but they're gonna cost a lot of money, aren't they?
Yeah, and you know, we'll be doing all of that while we're on a one-way street back to Europe as well. So none of this is at all democratic. And let's just be clear here. This man is universally despised. He's just slightly less universally despised than all the others because his sphere of catastrophe has been limited to Greater Manchester so far. And bearing in mind, he's been mayor of Greater Manchester since 2017, and we're talking Rochdale. We're talking Oldham, we're talking Bolton, we're talking real social problems here that have never been resolved and never will be resolved while there's a Labour mayor. And if we're talking about violence, that is one massively violent town. Peter was talking about being on the receiving end of stuff. I was stabbed in Manchester, stabbed twice, once in the back and once in the buttock. While just walking down the street by a gang of Somalis. So I know all about it, and I know what Manchester's like. And Burnham will do nothing for this country. He will do nothing for the economy. Certainly, he will do nothing for culture and society. He is just out for Burnham, just as Keir Starmer is out for Keir Starmer. The only real difference between Burnham and Rayner is that actually Burnham can speak and can construct a sentence, but that's about it.
I mean, what do you make of the fact that we now live in a country where, as much as we might despise a Prime Minister, they don't last very long? It's a merry-go-round of faction fighting and plots. So, I mean, we saw it in the Conservative Party. We're seeing it again. And look, I'm not exactly here cheerleading for Sir Keir Starmer, but I'm also getting rather tired of the fact that we just think, oh, well, do you know what's going to change the country's problems? Let's just switch the person at the top, rather than going, let's change our policies.
Exactly, or just change the system completely. I mean, we've had what I call the liberal era of liberalism, the liberal era for the last 30 years, which just completely hasn't worked. So we need to think about how we think about society, how we think about who and what we are, You have a terrible Prime Minister, then you've got three other potentially terrible Prime Ministers. That isn't really about the individuals. That's about the party, and the party has dominated all of the culture for the last 50 years. It doesn't matter who's been in power. If you look at the institutions, if you look at the police force, for example, if you look at the civil service, it's all dominated by Labour, radical left ideology. And that's why I say that, no, we shouldn't be ignoring Zach Polanski, just to go back to that for just 1 minute, because he is massively influential in the institutions. People vote for Green in the institutions. So we need to change all of this stuff. It's massive, it's huge, it's root and bound. We have to really think about where we are going. We need a different era. We need I know it's an oxymoron, but an era of radical conservatism, and it needs to start with the borders.
We definitely need a new era, that's for sure, and let's hope it's going to be the birth of one soon, because I'm not sure how much more I can take of this. Philip, thank you ever so much for joining us, and well done to you, keeping us on the straight and narrow, because the last thing we'd want to do is prejudice any sort of case. It's like walking through a minefield at the moment. You've got active charges, you've got purdah because of local elections. Honestly, some people don't know what it's like doing the tightrope of 3 hours of live broadcasting with all of these little things you've got to stay in between. Can't say that, can't do this, and then there's Ofcom, can't use hurty words either. Not an easy job sometimes, I tell you that much. But Peter Blexley absolutely right there in saying there's one thing we cannot do when someone has been arrested and charged is go into any sort of detail or opining about that particular case. OK, we are going to take a short break, but what we can do is opine about pro-Palestine marches. We're going to be joined by the brilliant Jonathan Sacerdoti, writer and broadcaster, to help us do just that after this.
Is Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has sort of used a mealy-mouthed statement when it comes to the pro-Palestine marches, saying, well, some might need to be banned. We might need to look at some of the language. All right, that's going to solve everything, isn't it? But let's speak now to the wonderful and kind and erudite Jonathan Sacerdoti, writer and broadcaster. Jonathan, always lovely talking to you, my darling. What do you make of what's going on in the United Kingdom? We've had these marches. Literally, one was already pre-prepared, wasn't it? The moment the atrocity of October the 7th happened. And they've just become a common fixture in the United Kingdom. And people look around and go, oh, I wonder why Jewish people suddenly feel so unsafe, until the point that there are violent attacks against the community. I mean, you know, should we be banning marches? Is that an imposition on the rest of us when it comes to freedom to assemble and protest?
Morning, Alex. I think there's a few layers to this question which it's important to try and pull apart. And I'll say, to start with, about banning marches and banning phrases, it does go against the grain because all of us want to protect freedom of speech and freedom of protest. And it's really important, I think, that if people see something going on in the world that they feel strongly about, that they do feel they can make their views heard. And yet, what I think has happened with these so-called pro-Palestine marches, which are invariably more anti-Israel marches, and that distinction seems important to me, it is that they've become quite hateful. Their mood is quite hateful towards Jews, even perhaps if some of those attending don't mean it to be. It's certainly become intimidating. It's become obstructive, in the same way that other pressure groups like Just Stop Oil and the environmentalist groups deliberately made their presence a nuisance. It wasn't there to persuade, it was there to coerce. It was there to say, if you don't do what we want according to our views of an issue, then we're going to get in your way and make your life harder. We're going to force you. And that isn't a democratic right. That's the point. I think that there is no democratic right to force your views on other people by embarrassing them, cancelling them, trying to stop them holding their views, trying to limit their freedoms, trying to make their lives smaller. And that's exactly what happened, not just to Jews as a result of these Palestine Solidarity Campaign marches and other groups, but also to many non-Jews. I know so many non-Jewish people who would avoid central London when those crowds and mobs were going through them. And when we look at why people feel that way, it's because they heard those chants calling for intifada. And a lot of discussion over that word. Intifada refers, the first and second intifadas were terrorist uprisings in Israel that killed hundreds of Israelis, hundreds of civilians, hundreds of Arabs as well. These are references to terrorist moments in history. Yeah. And so I think all of that has combined to show this isn't really a free speech issue at all.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Because I think we can postulate, and I believe it's been said previously, by people in the know from intelligence agencies, that a lot of this stuff, yes, there's sort of the middle classes who go along with it, feel they're on, the side of the righteous and all the rest of it. But the way I regard a lot of this stuff it is perverse and dangerous propaganda, terrorist propaganda, from a hostile regime. They might not have sat there and sent out the invitations and organised the whole thing themselves, but I have no doubt that the long arm of the IRGC, of Hamas, of Islamist nations, is very much involved with the coordination of these marches. So, like you said, this isn't just about someone in Britain bemoaning something or showing solidarity with a cause. How do we tackle this when we know that it is essentially an extension of grey zone warfare?
That's correct too, I think. And I think one good example of that's almost indisputable is at the so-called Al-Quds Day, over which there's been some discussion of whether it can be banned. And this year it was limited from being a march to being a stationary protest, which is one step in the right direction. Al-Quds Day was invented by the Iranian Islamic Republic regime. It was invented as a day to further terrorist ends. That was the point in it, and it was spread around the world with some success in different places, most notably here in the UK. So I do think that there is absolutely grounds for cancelling and banning some of these things, and that we just need to be very much clearer when we're discussing them why we're doing it. It's not because we're banning people who don't approve of one or other military or political decision of the State of Israel, but it's because they're engaging in something knowingly or unknowingly, which is sponsored, backed, encouraged by terrorist regimes or terrorist sympathizers. So I think that's very important. And again, I say this often, I get flack for it, of course, from people that don't agree with me, but I'll say it loud and proud. We also need to look really hard at what the Palestinian cause actually is. So I think it's been very fashionable to brand it as a liberation cause of a persecuted people. But I think that if you actually study the history of the Arab-Israel conflict, you'll see that Palestinianism has been used since the moment that it started as a movement to attack Israel and Jews and to resist the presence of a Jewish state in Israel, to the extent that it has transmorphed into different formations. But even the so-called moderates these days, we don't talk very much about the political process anymore for good reason, but even the so-called moderates like Fatah and the Palestinian Authority are born of the Palestine Liberation Organization. That flag they love to wave in the streets, the so-called Palestinian flag, it's the flag of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, the very same led by the arch-terrorist Yasser Arafat. So the actual cause itself, in many respects, encapsulates many of the things which work against not just Israel, but against Jews, against the West, and in favour of a cause which has often used terrorism. And that just isn't talked about. All these basic principles underlying these kind of protests are not talked about enough because people are afraid of challenging something which is currently seen as fashionable and sympathetic and empathetic to persecuted people.
I just want to ask you about one more thing, which is comments from Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell, who has denounced Zach Polanski after criticism of the London police over an arrest of a terror attack suspect. Of course, we can't talk about that because there is an active charge. But she has said that he is an extremist who legitimises violence against Jews. Now, he has been on the airwaves today on Sky. I've seen him pop up on the BBC talking about, well, as a Jew myself, I join these marches. They don't necessarily make Jewish people unsafe. What do you make of her comments?
Zach Polanski's an interesting case. I mean, every so often we seem to have the rise of an extreme leftist populist body. At one point it was the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, and then we briefly had the kind of vote face your party, whatever it was called. And now this one with the Greens. Green now apparently not standing for environmental causes, but for Islamist causes. They both share that colour. I think that Polanski is a very dangerous figure. Yes, he's Jewish, apparently. He's of Jewish heritage. But I've seen reporting that his own Jewish family are horrified by what he's doing. Not that that should matter. He doesn't have to do what his family thinks. I can tell you what I feel. I am Jewish too, but not specifically relevant to my opinion on him. I think what he's doing is dangerous. I think that Zach Polanski is deliberately trying to appeal to a populist audience, a mixed populist audience of extreme leftists and extreme Islamists and people that hate Jews. And the fact that he's Jewish doesn't mean that he's not doing that. He can be as calculating, as Machiavellian a politician as anybody else. And the idea that he's just some good old honest chap in a trench coat who goes to these protests alongside, you know, men dressed in women's clothes or bondage gear chanting on a stage at the same time as having people kicked out of his party for very problematic Islamist extremist behaviour, anti-Semitic behaviour. We've seen this before. I think most of us looking on know exactly what it is, but the fear is that it's dangerous because there is an impressionable and, let's say, oblivious audience, and some who are less oblivious but don't care, who are willing to go along with the extremism that party represents and manifests. And that's very dangerous in our society. Extremism and Jew hatred and hatred of Britain and British values and Western values and all of those things are dangerous whichever quarter they come from, even if they come from somebody with Jewish heritage in a far left party. They're dangerous there as much as they are elsewhere.
Oh, Jonathan, I love you to pieces and love to your hubby as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I do like Jonathan Sacerdoti. He's such a measured, wonderful man. OK, right, we're going to take a short break. After the break, we want to talk to some of you, don't we, Peter?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, as said with Menace. He's lovely. 03444991000, it's your normal network rate, so give us a call. Who doesn't want to listen to the gorgeous, gravelly, sonorous tones of Mr. Blexley? If you want to send a message on WhatsApp, it's the same number, 03444991000. If you want to send a text message, 87222, write the word talk before you send your message. We're back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Sorry, Peter and I having a lovely natter there about the state of Britain and what's going on around the country. Peter was saying when he goes on tour, he's been to all sorts of parts of the UK.
Yes, and I've seen some wonderful, beautiful places that do remind me of Britain of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Because they remain largely unaffected, whereas where I live, has changed quite considerably. Not as dramatically as other parts of London, but I go to some of these places and they are absolutely beautiful. And the people and the conversations and the friendliness, basically because they're not besmirched by so much of which is dragging our nation down. They are fabulous places with wonderful shops, friendly people, great schools, good roads, and just, places I would love to move to, but I know within a week I'll be bored stiff.
Not if you come stay with me, you won't.
And then we go to other places where it breaks your heart to see the decline of the nation, the absolute tanking of the places, the empty shops, the boarded up premises, the people on the street, you just go, actually, are we in Britain?
I know, it's horrible. Well, let's get some people on the blower, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's talk first of all to Jack in London. Good morning to you, Jack.
Good morning to you both. I've got a theory on Zach Polanski's name, but I'll give you that in a second.
All right.
This conversation that we're having about banning the hate marches, which I do agree with. The thing is that I think there's a reason why this is coming up more so in the last week or so, and I think the establishment is allowing this conversation to fester, and I reckon that they're going to use it to ban the United Kingdom march on the 16th of May, and I think this is what we're leading up to, and I reckon the first hate march that in their eyes that they will ban will be the 16th of May. And I think that will cause uproar, and I think that'd be a really bad move all round, because there's a lot of very, very normal people that went on the last march, and I did attend that, and I went reluctantly, thinking, you know what, I'm gonna bail out of this as soon as I see a lunatic far right Nazi. I'm going to get out of the place, and actually, I was surrounded by a lot of very, very normal people, black Indian people. And I was really surprised. And what I did, and I had a kind of like I was a bit embarrassed to be there. And I spoke to a guy, they go there with his family, a black guy, and he just said to me, you know what, he said, I just had to be here. He said, because, he said, people get the wrong impression. He said, and the people here, he said, people have been really nice to me. And he said, I've had a really good day. He said, and I'm not going to lie, there was one or two drunk idiots, but, you're going to get that with anything. But it was a very welcoming.
It's interesting because I went on sort of, journalistic curiosity to the very first one and went to see what was going on with very much the sort of posture that you took with you. And to be honest, much the same. I just saw ordinary Brits from all around the country gathered together. And there was nothing sinister, there was no dangerous rhetoric, there was no sort of unpleasant slogans, there was no, what I could tell would be division, quite the opposite. But of course, we live in a world that has to invert the truth, so that's evil, and globalise the intifada is moral. So, make it make sense, Jack.
Do you want to hear my theory on the Zach Polanski?
Go on then, I always love a good theory. I'm going to settle myself down for that one with my brew.
That's not his real name, obviously. He's changed his name. And there's this historic actor called Jack Palance, who was an evil character in Western movies, and I reckon he's stolen that name, and he's just turned Jack Palance into Zach Polanski. That's what I think.
Oh, I'm going to have to Google. Ever heard of Jack Palance?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Tell me more, because I've never heard of this.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing him in some roles, none of which I can pinpoint at the moment. Maybe Jack can. But yeah, that's a name I'm familiar with from yesteryear.
I'm going to have to go down a little search engine wormhole. Not Ask Jeeves, apparently that's gone. Anyway, thank you for that bit of information. That has definitely whet my appetite and sparked my interest. Thank you for your call, Jack. Now, guess where Karen's calling from? We were talking about it earlier. where you've just been, down to the lovely seaside. Bournemouth, yeah. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Alex. Hi, Peter. Really looking forward to you showing Wimborne on Tuesday. Can't wait to get there.
Hey, there you go. He didn't even need to promote it himself.
There you go.
What I'd like to say is, in no way at all do I want to diminish the anti-Semitism argument that's going on, but I think the left are very much wanting us to concentrate on the Nazi, the Germany thing, because there's a far bigger danger to every woman in this country, and that is on the October 2025, there was a Muslim charity run which would not let women and girls over 12
I remember that
race. And any woman that votes for anybody on the left is setting up their own imprisonment, because that's what they really want.
Let me talk to you, because Peter and I, in the very beginning of this programme, were talking about Bournemouth, and Peter and his wife, 50 years of police duties between them, policing experience, were down in Bournemouth using their well-trained eyes and noticed packs of imported men ogling women in a very obvious manner. Now, you are in Bournemouth. I remember once looking at the statistics, freely available because people had FOI'd the police, about rapes and sexual assaults in Bournemouth. At one point there, I think there were vigilantes wanting to protect Bournemouth Beach. I was astonished, and not a lot surprises me these days, but the massive uptick in sexual offences in Bournemouth. And of course now we've seen another attack on a woman in Brighton. And I want to ask you, Karen, as you live down there, describe to us what it is like. What sort of things do you see?
Well, Kevin O'Sullivan was kind enough to interview me about Bournemouth a few months ago. It is dangerous. I would not go out at night. People are frightened. And the whole place is just basically being shut down. Shops closing. Nobody wants to do anything. Robberies.
And what's going on here? Okay, because a lot of cities, a lot of towns can sort of report the same: closure of shops, upticks in crime, so on and so forth. But specifically about incidents of sexual violence, let's say, and the sort of scenes that Peter saw with young men from foreign countries who might have slightly different attitudes towards women, as you were explaining. When you are out and about in Bournemouth, do you bear witness to harassment and ogling, leering, approaching women, anything like that?
I've seen, they hang around in the streets watching what women are doing, checking them out and things like that. I mean, the reason that they're coming over here is because it's being advertised as you can have any woman you want, nobody will do anything about it. So it's definitely like that. I'm old enough and ugly enough that I don't think I'm going to get attacked, but it's a case of, you just can't go around. When I first moved here, I would go off to the beach, have a wander down with my dog and everything else, and have a really nice time. I wouldn't think twice about, is there danger around me, because it was such a peaceful and friendly place. And now people stick to their crowds, stick to their groups of people. People don't go out on their own at night anymore. The thing is, you're constantly walking around thinking what could happen, and it's too easy, because you see the guys, they're walking around in their little groups, watching people very closely, and it is very nerve-wracking, to say the least.
Yeah, I would feel if I was a lovely El Nino heat wave this summer, I would think twice before getting my itsy bitsy teeny weeny out on Bournemouth Beach.
Yeah, but I mean, every woman has that problem. And the worst thing about that Victoria Park run was that it was perfectly legal, because it was brought in by Labour, Harriet Harman, under the Equalities Act 2010. And if you get enough of you've also got not just the left, Labour and Zach Polanski and stuff, you've also got those independents to be scared of. And I think if any woman votes for any of those, They're just putting themselves in a prison. They won't be allowed to work.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Karen. Peter, I can see you sort of gearing up.
Karen's just almost repeated the phrase that she said right at the top of that piece, and it is extremely powerful, and it's beautifully put by a woman about women. If you vote for these far left parties and characters, you are voting essentially for your own imprisonment.
Yeah.
I mean, what a line. What a wonderful line.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to sit here and listen to the audience contributing. It encapsulated so much of it. Take Islam at its extreme. Take these far left lunatics at their extreme. And what are they? They are intolerant.
Exactly.
They are illiberal. They are the enemy of British values.
And they're very misogynistic as well.
Yeah.
The trans rights movement, I believe, is very misogynistic. Much of Islamism is very misogynistic. And like you said, Karen, if we just let this stuff go unchecked, let alone vote apparently in favour of it, we're just setting ourselves up for a dystopian future. Karen, thank you ever so much. Message that's come in from Debbie. I wish the word tolerance would be banned. It's been rammed down our throats and caused this problem. Why should we be tolerant? We should be firm and fair. That's the difference. This is the thing, because very often they're asking us to be tolerant of intolerance. They're asking us to condone, not condemn, things that should have no place in our society.
Well, of course, I come from an era when intolerance was a byword. Teachers were intolerant towards bad behaviour. The park keeper was intolerant towards you if you tried to bunk in after dark. People in the street, members of the public, were intolerant of bad behaviour.
Yeah.
You know, adults called us kids out a lot in the street. You're doing stuff, and then people, just complete random members of the public, go, oi! And you can pack that in.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing that these days?
You wouldn't, would you?
It's disappeared,
Look,
sadly.
I get the train, and do you know what's sickening me at the moment? The amount of people who get on a train and put their bag next to them. I'm like, did you pay for 2 seats, did you? I never do that, because it's just, that isn't my seat. I've paid for this one, that isn't mine. Put your bag on the shelf or by your feet or on the bit where luggage goes. I just think it is such a rude and antisocial thing. You might not want company. You might not want someone to come and sit next to you. So pay for 2 seats, for crying out loud. It really sticks in my craw. I had to get that one off my chest.
Don't get me started about people putting their feet on train seats, because anybody who follows me on social media knows that I quite regularly...
You should carry a little, like, shin cruncher.
Offenders.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got to move on, because we've actually got the brilliant Matthew Bryser, former US ambassador, waiting for us just after this. So don't go anywhere.
done fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Hello and
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back and welcome to the show. Ambassador Matthew Bryser, who is also former White House and senior State Department official. Always good to be catching up with you, Ambassador Matthew Bryser. Let us talk about wrapping up this state visit. Because, you know, in America, I did a lot of work for Newsmax over the last 4 days, talking a lot, and I was absolutely delighted with how much the Americans were embracing this state visit, covering it. I hate to tell you this, in the UK, we sort of tuned into the beginning bit, all sort of in typical, you know, UK fashion, expected it to be, you know, underwhelming or looking for some sort of controversy. It went swimmingly well, I thought. Is that it? Do you think the special relationship is back on track?
No, it's not back on track, but you're right. I mean, Americans love that stuff. They love the pomp and circumstance. I mean, we don't have anything like that in America. Donald Trump really wants to be that. And this is a great bit of soft power that the UK has. And it went great. But, you know, the King's speech was amazing. I mean, it was highly critical of many of Trump's policies. And I noticed that in some of the most critical lines, J.D. Vance, the vice president, and the Speaker of the House were cheering, not apparently understanding what was being said. But anyway, that's not why the special relationship won't be back on track. I think President Trump has just decided the U.S. is going to go its own way, as we see in the war in Iran.
And, I mean, how much is this a threat to NATO, or how much is this rhetoric designed to get the Europeans to roll up their sleeves, spend more on defence, take their own security more seriously?
Of course, Alex, that was in the beginning the whole motivation, and I think that was a great approach. It worked. Look, you've got NATO now agreeing to a 5% overall spending target, and NATO member states are hitting those targets. So that part worked. What's not working so well, though, is when President Trump operates out of anger, fits of pique, like now, when he says, wait, we're going to pull 5,000 troops out of Germany because I don't like what Chancellor Merz said. And then today or yesterday, he said, you know, we're going to pull out way more than 5,000 troops without thinking through how many do we need? Which ones are you going to pull out? Don't we need our allies right now when we're stuck in the Persian Gulf? So my problem with him is that he's shooting from the hip.
OK, now let's talk about the Falkland Islands, shall we? Because there was this leaked email from the Pentagon. It's been sort of dismissed by various people as, well, it was a junior person who just wrote this stuff up. It's not real. But, of course, a very sensitive subject in the United Kingdom. That is our overseas territory. And, in fact, it's not just about that's our overseas territory. The Falklanders themselves want to be British. Every time they have a referendum, there's only about 3 people who go, we'd rather be independent. Nobody says we want to be Argentinian. But, of course, it plays well to the Argentinian audience. And so the foreign minister of Argentina has said, well, you know, we've got to talk about this. You better go back to your own country because those are our islands. Is there a risk that this is going to escalate, do you think? And if it did, what side would America then take? Would America be vocal in backing the United Kingdom's claim to the Falkland Islands? Or because of the relationship between Javier Milei and Donald Trump, might he be tempted to turn around and say, right, you know, Las Malvinas it is then?
Yeah, Las Malvinas son Argentinas, right. First of all, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about a moment ago. People high up in the Trump administration who want to curry the president's favor by having an emotional and tough guy response and opening now a new problem that has no business being reopened. This is settled. As you said, Alex, the residents of the Falklands have repeatedly voted to be British. So your hypothetical question is absolutely intriguing and fascinating. No way to know the answer, of course, And, at the end of the day, my gut tells me, of course, the United States would wake up and be smart and stand with its NATO ally. But yeah, the relationship between Trump and Milei is close. And if you go back and look at the Trump administration's new national security strategy, it's all about the U.S. taking charge of the Western Hemisphere and in partnership with the countries of the Western Hemisphere to secure supply chains and critical minerals. And so there is a chance President Trump, in a fit of pique, would side with Argentina. But I don't think there's any chance he'll get that far.
And let's now finally talk about the state of play in Iran. Donald Trump has turned around and basically said, OK, we're going to look at whatever the Iranians have put together when it comes to some sort of deal. I'm not going to like it. He's basically rejected out of hand before reading it. I can imagine that most people might want to do the same, because I can't imagine the Iranians in that as saying, yeah, great, we're never going to build nuclear weapons. We're not going to murder our own people. We all want to get along just nicely and we're going to recognise Israel. I can't imagine that's in there anywhere. But where does this now take us? Because is he going to, do you think, once again restart bombing Iran? We still got a situation with the Strait of Hormuz partially closed. It seems like Iran wants to run that a bit like the mafia. And so a lot of people are saying, well, OK, what is the next move?
Yeah, I think President Trump really wants to get out of this conflict, wants the strait reopened. And it's just crazily ironic. I think he would take the old JCPOA of 2015 at this point if he could get the strait open and get the Iranians to agree to limits on their enrichment. But the Iranians understand that, so they're being cute and they're driving up the stakes. But there's a limit. Everybody has a limit, right, of pain. And the Iranian economy, I mean, we know how bad it was doing when there was nationwide protests a couple months ago.
Matthew, I'm afraid we're going to have to love you and leave you. We're at our break time, but thank you, Matthew Breiser.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show, the final hour today of broadcasting from Talk Towers. It's been a pleasure to have your company, but I have to interrupt myself because we've got some quite striking breaking news. All that we know is there's been a major explosion in Bristol, a house explosion. 2 are dead in what is being called a suspicious blast, and a major incident has been declared. A police cordon is in place in a residential area of Bristol after a suspicious explosion killed 2 people. We will keep you informed as more lines come in on that. We'll try and see if we can find out where in Bristol this is and what might have sparked the suspicion. But there you go, some pretty big news. The police have said that it's not being treated as terror-related, but, well, what sort of suspicious things cause a house to explode? Suspicious gas boilers?
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate. Let's wait and see. The police will be keen to get as much information out as soon as they possibly can. Yeah. But what they'll be doing at the moment, of course, is what the police do with incidents like this. Their primary concern is the protection of life. Could this happen again? Would it be part of a pattern? Are buildings stable? The buildings need to be stabilised so that they don't collapse. So this is the emergency services at their very best. Fire, paramedics, police, much, much more, I'm sure. But it's on occasions like this, on days like this, when I could think, OK, it's Sunday. Maybe millions of people might be enjoying the weather if it's half decent, having a barbecue perhaps, or having a bit of Sunday lunch with their loved ones, whatever takes their fancy. And our 999 heroes are out there, they're underpaid, they're overworked, and I talk for all of them, and they are out there doing stuff that, believe you me, we really wouldn't want to do. Because when we say, perhaps quite glibly, 2 people dead, somebody's got to recover those bodies. Yeah. They may not be complete, for example, and I won't get any more graphic than that. Somebody has to go in and do that work, and it's not great. It can sometimes be traumatic, messy, and very, very unpleasant. And overwhelmingly, for decades now, our 999 services have had their pension contributions and their pension terms and conditions butchered, whether it be fire brigade, paramedics, police. Their wages have stagnated, or in fact, in real terms, gone backwards. And yet, when we have the worst moments in this nation, in our lives, heaven forbid, who do we call upon? What number do we dial? And who comes rushing without a thought for their own concern to our aid? Our 999 heroes. That's and they true. Are exactly that, heroes.
Well said. We do know that this house is located in Stern Court Road. Not sure where in Bristol that is, but we will let you know more as and when we learn it. OK, right. Final hour of the show. We try and have a bit of fun with it. It doesn't feel like there's much to have fun about today,
I'm sure
does there?
We will.
But let's... I know who's going to make things a little bit more cheerful, or at least try and help us laugh through the pain. Steve N. Allen, because, of course, he's a comedian and a broadcaster. Good afternoon to you, Steve. Great to have you on the show. Oh, Sir Keir Starmer. Do you know, when are we going to have a Prime Minister who does a full term?
Those days are gone. Forget that. I love it when you line up the number of prime ministers that we had. It took like 30 years to get through so many. We did the same in about 3 weeks. But no, you might be in luck, because Keir Starmer, the rumour is, some high sources are saying that even, well, if and when things go really badly for Keir Starmer, he's going to cling on. You might get what you want there. He might try and make it to the end of the full term, even though everyone around him will be just screaming, come on, man, read the room. But he's a lawyer, not a politician. And I think that within the DNA of a lawyer is trying to find your way to just cling on, to fight that one argument that you are paid to do. I think it's in the mindset of the lawyer. And he will be tenacious, is the nice way of saying it, but it looks like he's likely to cling on, even if all the evidence tells him it wouldn't be the best political move.
No, I don't like the Labour Party. I don't like Sir Keir Starmer. I think that actually having a socialist government right now with all our problems is like trying to treat lung cancer by encouraging smoking. But I do actually have this sense that I wouldn't mind having a Prime Minister with a bit of spine who says, let me get on with the job. Stop your griping, stop your plotting, stop your coups, stop your blimmin' Greater Manchester mayors from suddenly looking in the mirror and sizing up their, you know, suit ready for the job. I actually quite like the idea that he's going to dig his... I don't like him, I don't particularly want him to lead the country, but the difference is I don't like anyone else who might follow him either.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? That, you know, I see what you mean, because in part this will be the pendulum swinging back from what we saw at the end of the Tories, that absolute revolving door of prime ministers. So if anything, Keir Starmer would have thought, well, that doesn't work. Let's not do that. It's another argument in his scales to try and work out why he should stay there. But mainly the reason he would stay there is because of the weakness of any possible contender, isn't it? All of them are kind of semi-scuppered already, whether it's HMRC issues, whether it's not being an MP, which is somewhat of a difficult thing to try and jump over. Everyone's saying that if you could get a team up between Wes and Ange, there's a chance, but their groups hate each other, their tribes hate each other, so that's not going to happen. So it might not be that you've got such a forceful, willful, Churchillian Prime Minister who will he'll have no truck with any of this. It's just the people coming at him have got no strength. So, that's not necessarily the force you wanted. And also, I take your point, but if he was going to stand up and be the man of backbone, should have done it before all the rebellions. Do you know what I mean? That would have been the time to get control of your party, to be able to pass things through Parliament. With a majority like that, you should be able to come up with a bill, get that passed through, because you got the majority. And he just doesn't have that ability. He didn't have the strength to stand up to the backbenchers.
Do you know, I can feel a game coming on here, because I'm having a look out the corner of my eye at Mr. Blexley, and I want to play a game called What Does Peter's Face Say? Let's try this, shall we? Let's do some of the runners and riders who could become our next Prime Minister and see what Blexley's face has to say on the issue. Let's do Angela Rayner. All right, got the answer there. What about Wes Streeting? All right, got that one. Andy Burnham?
Oh.
OK, I think we're going to have to really dig deep to get some really exciting faces now, because I'm going to bring out my favourite.
But what
Ed Miliband.
Oh, where's the bacon sandwich? Where's an Ange? It sounds like a fungus, doesn't it? OK, you go to the doctor. You know, yeah, doctor, I've got some itching between my feet and between my toes. He has a look at it, he goes, yeah, it's the Wes and Ange fungus. It does, it sounds like a fungus, and I think it's very appropriate.
Do you know what? What is so staggering, though, is when we had all the sort of, you know, the nonsense with the Conservative Party and the competing factions, and we kept seeing all the leadership debates, and there they all were, you know, fighting one another. At least when I looked at them, I kind of thought that, well, OK, you know, Tom Tugendhat's a sensible character. I like Tom a great deal. Nice man, you know, has served his country at a very high level in army intelligence. And then I looked at Rishi Sunak and I went, well, you know, big Goldman Sachs banker, very bright, precociously bright individual. And you sort of thought, well, these are actually, you know, people who are head and shoulders above the average man and woman in terms of what they've achieved. But you look at the Labour Party lot and you're just like, you wouldn't even have to babysit your dog.
But they don't know about the lives and the struggles and the concerns of the everyday people. You say average, I say everyday.
Yeah.
Right? Okay?
Much nicer term.
Everyday people, they do not have an awareness of. Starmer knows nothing about the everyday trials and tribulations and hopes and wishes and ambitions of everyday people. They live in this rarefied Westminster environment. Oh, they break out of it. Oh, yeah, what? To be photographed with a brand new hard hat and a brand new high-vis jacket on. By the way, what a waste of money all that is. If ever I ruled the country, I would have a high-vis and a hard hat in the back of the car, and I'd wear it to all of them, not new branded ones and all that stuff. They waste so much money.
On that though, one hard hat and one high vis good for Angela Rayner the next time she's drinking, just because we don't want to break any more doors.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Useful. Also, you know, bright colours in the animal kingdom represent danger. Never forget that. Is there anybody that you think, like, if you're delving into the ranks of the Labour Party, who you might consider could possibly at a push past muster?
No, I think name-wise they're really struggling. That's the problem. Literally, the strongest lineup include people who have already tried and failed. Ed Miliband. I mean, Wes Streeting might be the best of the bunch, and that tells you all the information you need to know about the rest of the bunch, doesn't it? The problem that the Labour Party has is that the larger group the backbenchers, are the worst kind of the Labour Party. So you wouldn't want any of those rising to the surface. This is one of those be careful what you wish for. We can all pick fault with Keir Starmer, but it seems that whatever's going to happen afterwards is going to be that horrible sequel. Sequels are never good as the original, so can you imagine how bad it could get?
Oh, I really can. That's the problem. I actually thought to myself, this is going to be interesting under a Labour government. How bad can things get? And it's worse than I imagined, if I'm honest with you. I don't know how to sort of do this next story with a comedian. It's not really a laughing matter at all. But apparently, 70% of Brits, I think it is, think that there will be widespread riots this summer. We, of course, do not encourage such behaviour. In fact, I really do not want to see it because it helps absolutely nothing. But 79% of Brits think that there could be rioting. 83% are braced for a rise of shoplifting. 73% are worried about a rise in homelessness and people going hungry. What else? What are we missing from the list?
Starvation, any of the plagues. What are the apocalypses? Let's get those horsemen around here. That's what we're predicting. Look, you're right. It's not funny because the riots are a serious matter whenever they happen. Maybe there's a chance that this is just bad prediction because the riots tend to happen after new governments get in. The 2011 one, when everyone got a new pair of trainers, was just after the 1 year after the coalition got in, and the first main riots, Labour got in, and then it was the summer of riots. So maybe we don't riot in the same way. However, I think you mix into that, things are a bit different now. Every weekend seems to be a protest that it's bumped up against a counter-protest. It's like they're wanting this to happen, like they're wanting the tensions to get too high. You even get situations where every weekend there's some protest going on where people are saying hideous things about the Jewish community. Then one group gets identified as a terrorist organisation. Then we have to have protests about indicating that they're a terrorist organisation. Everything goes to protest. The protests aren't what they used to be. It used to be like...
What's going on here, Blexy? I mean, people are just bored because, look, I know there's a cost of living crisis. I know we have some of the highest energy bills in the developed world. I know all these things, but at the same time, I've also got a bit of context, having lived in the developing world, that actually it ain't that bad here. Believe me, it's not. And yet, everything just seems to go from zero to really quickly. Are people just bored? Is that why they want to go and keep... I mean, look, I'm very angry, but I don't find myself wanting to go and walk streets and kick in shop windows and, snatch things out of shoe locker.
The riots of 1981, Brixton, I was there on the Friday as it simmered towards its pinnacle the following day, were absolutely dreadful and were very different motives between those and the riots of 2011. Let me just make this fundamentally clear, and I know it actually doesn't apply to your audience because they're far brighter than that, but anybody who throws a brick or a petrol bomb at a police officer is an absolute idiot and deserves everything that comes their way in terms of force and being arrested and hopefully charged and being imprisoned for a considerable amount of time. Throwing a brick or a petrol bomb at a police officer ain't going to solve anything. So I utterly condemn anybody. I think really if the poll had been slightly differently worded, it might have been, how angry do you feel about the country at the moment? How angry are you about your lot, about your life? I think those kind of figures would be replicated. So when you say, do you think there's going to be a riot? If you say, well, I feel really angry, you're more likely to translate that into saying, yes, there will be. I think actually what this nation is headed towards, moreover, is huge, huge civil unrest.
Yeah.
And I don't give a damn what people say or whether I get cancelled for saying this. But I think what we are more likely to have, not today, not this year, but in the future, will be a faith war on the streets of Britain.
No, you're absolutely bang on. I think you're absolutely right on that. OK, let's take a little break, shall we? And let's see if we can dig around and find things that we can treat with a little bit more of a light-hearted tone, because it is Sunday, God's Day, after all, and we can't all be miserable all the time. So don't go anywhere, put the kettle on, and let's see what we can do to salvage our mood just after this.
welcome to Down. Is Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, welcome back, Steve N. Allen. Right, let's talk about something here, because apparently, you know when you're like booking an Uber or something and it's a rainy day or there's lots of traffic on the road and all of a sudden that journey that used to cost you 10 quid costs you £10,000. Apparently, there's this idea that supermarkets and things like that might start doing this. This idea of hiking and reducing prices according to demand, dynamic pricing tactics. And the Bank of England is predicting that we're going to be hit with that, and a surge in this dynamic pricing, estimating about a third of UK firms will adopt market-responsive pricing tools. All right. So what does that actually mean? It means on Valentine's Day, a box of chocolates is potentially going to cost 10 times more because everyone's running out to buy them. Or a bunch of flowers, or Pimm's during Wimbledon, or, I don't know, your average kitchen knife when they all go and loot up Croydon. I just think this, I think this is appalling. It's interesting, actually, because the transport union, TUC, has turned around and actually suggested that these private hire car companies need to stop doing the surge pricing. And yet it seems it's catching on, Steve.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? As if things weren't expensive enough, people are now finding ways to use AI to maximise how expensive they are. That's what it is, this surge pricing, dynamic pricing. However, though, it's always been a thing, and we sat here pretending as if it's not a thing. Like Valentine's Day, that is when flowers cost more. Let's not pretend that's the thing. I mean, strawberries are always more expensive around Wimbledon anyway. So it's basically they're finding a way to use AI to do the hard work of the shopkeeper who used to have to think, oh, let's charge more for flowers now. It's a good opportunity for people like me who are northern and tight, because what I like to do anyway is really cheap it out on Valentine's Day and at another time of the year. Then you make an effort and your partner will say, oh, what did I do? And you say, nothing. I just want to show you how special you are today. She don't know that it had one of those oops yellow stickers on before I brought it home, does she? And it's not about the price, it's about the thought that counts. And I thought I'm going to save myself some money. Another one on the list is wrapping paper. That's going to go up in price around Christmas. Just do like I'd buy so much of it straight after Christmas. My little home studio here that I'm sat in, over there, it's mainly a mixture of wrapping paper, cat food, which I buy in bulk. We're just going to have to be cheap like me. So I will start doing YouTube videos explaining how to be cheap.
That's funny. My little home studio up in my attic is surrounded by wrapping paper as well. What is that? Studios and wrapping paper just go together. But it's like things like turkeys. Yeah, the suggestion is a turkey at Christmas might cost 90 quid. Well, guess what? People just won't buy it. Turkey's not even that good.
Yeah, good point. Until they can find a way to fix how dry it is. But turkeys cost more.
The pair of you. utter sacrilege.
It's not even tradition. It's been around for like a handful of years. Come on.
Nonsense. Turkey is wonderful. You heathens just don't know how to cook it.
I'll tell you what turkey has got in it. It's got some sort of special chemical that apparently makes you happy.
Well, it makes me very happy on Christmas Day. I'm always happy on Christmas Day.
It's got tryptophan in it, which is one of the amino acids which is used to make a thing that makes you sleepy as well.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
That's why you get
happy,
a good nap.
Happy, sleepy.
Nah, John, honestly, you're utter heathens.
Naming
My
balls.
turkey has been costing me 90 quid for years because we have a huge one and it's very
just
expensive.
all for you.
And it's one of the things that we treat ourselves to because, you know, the family are coming round. We order it from the butcher way in advance. Mind you, I say that and we get a joint of beef as well. But yeah, turkey, you've got to learn how to cook it properly. You cook it slowly, you cook it early, and you let it rest for a long time. Wrapped in towels and foil, let it rest. It remains succulent, it carves beautifully, and it's wonderful.
Tutankhamun, it sounds like. Do you see what I did there? Turkey, Tutankhamun, your mummified bird.
You're making it sound like it just ran a marathon. Let it rest and wrap it in tinfoil.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, someone's been on a pro-Palestine march and that needs to be protected. Now, let's talk about this. Is a great story. I love it when you find something like this. I love the fact that human beings like this exist in the world. Ben Lamb is my favourite human being at the moment because he's made a heck of a lot of money and he set up something called Colossal Biosciences, his De-extinction company, and he's trying to use bits and bobs of DNA to bring creatures back from the dead. He wants to bring back the woolly mammoth. I think that sounds kind of good. You don't want to see those. That sounds amazing. But his main focus is this thing called a blue buck, an antelope considered to be the first large African mammal to go extinct in modern history. And he's gone sniffing around bits of old dead skin and bones and is now, I don't know, stirring it up in Petri dishes. Oh, using CRISPR, gene editing, to tweak its cells until, tweak something else's cells, and I don't know what he's doing. But Jurassic Park is coming real.
Exactly. Why have you not seen Jurassic Park recently, Alex? It's not a good story. The moral of Jurassic Park isn't we should definitely try and do that more. Now, admittedly, he might be bringing back the dodo, and if we get killed off by the dodo, it was our own stupid fault. You know what I mean? If you know, we weren't going to hang around for long if some of these animals could take us down. But I go through life and I don't miss the woolly mammoth. It's not a big thing in my life. You know, my theory is if you went extinct as a species, that's your own stupid fault. I mean, I'm this far away from thinking the pandas, we should just finish them off. We're wasting all that money trying to keep them alive. They're not even
pandas. What's wrong with you?
I'll tell you who doesn't love a panda? Another panda. If you don't find each other attractive and you're dying off because you ain't getting it on, then it's not. I don't want to tax fund some research project to bring pandas back when they don't even fancy each other anymore.
I'd
Same thing probably happens to
rather
the
look at a panda than his cat.
Well, don't you
Whose
start on
cat?
cats.
Well, I'd rather look at a panda than Steve's cat. He's wishing the death of the panda bear. That's appalling.
You're wishing the death of my cat?
No, I didn't
Yeah,
wish
exactly.
the death of your cat. No, words count, they're important. I did not wish death upon your cat, but you're wishing the extinction of the panda bear. Dreadful. I think they're lovely.
On behalf of all
Loves a
cat owners.
panda, Steve.
No, but you know what I mean? We're wasting so much money trying to keep things that are, like the Sphinx macaw had something like 12 of them left. Then it's game over, isn't it? You are not part of the ecosystem if there's only 12 of you. Sometimes we just have to be a little less emotional about these species. And so I think it's even worse to be trying to bring back, the woolly mammoth would be great. Was it? Why? Do you miss having woolly mammoths around?
I don't know, I've never seen one. I weren't around back then.
And if
that's why you don't need
I don't want woolly mammoths.
And if one were to die, I'd quite like a woolly mammoth coat. I bet that'd be snug, wouldn't it? If
That'd
you
be
use
lush.
it to have its coat. Of course, all the anti-fur brigade would get their knickers in a twist. But
I want to know what the size is of a woolly mammoth compared to a normal elephant. Because I have a feeling they're like substantially bigger, and elephants are big.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't have the space.
What's this man going to do with all these creatures when he brings them back? Because, you know...
let's be honest, it's eat them. Of course he's got to eat them. He's a crazy billionaire. He's got to be tucking into a burger.
What the heck is this? So hold on. Get this. He wants to bring back the woolly mouse. These were genetically engineered rodents that had mammoth-like traits, including long, thick fur. Who genetically engineered that? Who sits there one day and goes, do you know what? We need to mix a mammoth and a mouse and see what happens. Oh, there it is. Look, it's like the sort of, stick of the dump of the rodent world.
roasted slowly at 180, they're beautiful.
It's better than a turkey.
But I don't know. You do sort of think, what's he planning to do with all of this? There's going to be a major launch in the UAE, and they're creating a Noah's Ark 2.0 to store the genetic code of every endangered species on Earth in biovaults. Every endangered species on Earth, all he has to do is go down the planning department, right, and realise why we haven't got HS2 because there's some sort of, bat-winged newt or something that apparently we need to exercise ourselves about.
Now, if we could just save their DNA in that vault and then kill off the ones that are stopping HS2, I'm with you there. That would be worthwhile. We'll just save their DNA and plough on building stuff. Yeah, I'm up for it.
Oh, man. OK, let's talk about this. Blimmin' young people today. We're going to be actually picking this up again after the break because we're joined by the excellent Catherine Burble-Singh. Everyone knows her, Britain's strictest headmistress. But apparently now only 1 in 10 people think it's important to keep the Falkland Islands. I bet 1 in 10 people couldn't even... Young people, this is. I bet they couldn't even point at where the Falkland Islands are. I've no idea what they are. Doesn't matter, there's a load of British people living there who've been there for a long time who don't want to be kicked off their own island. Oh, the lovely, compassionate, lefty youth of the day. They're like, yeah, no, they can go. I mean, is this just ignorance, or have they all been brainwashed by the sort of decolonisation stuff?
Yeah, it's that one, isn't it? It's oversimplification, that they think you have to view everything in this simplistic good guy, bad guy, oppressor and oppressed. And in their world narrative, the UK's the bad guy, specifically the English is the bad guy of the bad guys. And they just think if there's anything that means we lose a bit of territory, of course, because that's where their thinking stops. As simple as that. Like, oh, yes, somehow you've got to do anything that hates their own country. That is no way to live, is it? It's no way to thrive as a country. It's to have an entire generation, this cohort of people growing up thinking of themselves as the bad guy, wishing to do harm to themselves, as if somehow that's correcting global injustice.
Oh, Steve, it's lovely catching up with you. And you leave those pandas alone, or Blexley's going to be after you, and I wouldn't tangle with him. He's menacing. Stephen Allen, thank you ever so much. It is sad about this blimmin' Falkland Islands stuff, isn't it? Because do you get the impression that Steve's right? Everyone's been taught to hate their country, oh, giving away territories, that's a good thing. It's like being a sort of victim of narcissistic abuse or domestic abuse and having Stockholm syndrome.
When I was younger, a lot of my friends were Catholics.
Yeah.
And they used to tell me, both boys and girls, would talk about Catholic guilt and how they felt it, and how they felt it was sometimes kind of instilled into them. I think there's British guilt now that people would like to impose upon us. Because we're British, because we're English, Scots, Welsh or Northern Irish, we should feel guilt about what made us great. Guilt about the industrialisation of the world, which we led. And if you ever want to go to Ironbridge and see the wonderful museums and the bridge up there, you know, get a flavour for it. Guilt about that. Guilt for mining coal. Guilt for our emissions over the centuries. Guilt for spreading the railways around the world. Guilt for inventing the computer. Guilt for Sir Frank Whittle inventing the jet fighter.
Sorry about the vaccines and the you know, and the radios and the televisions and the engineering and the democracy and the Christianity and the diplomacy and the peace and all those horrific things that we've given to the world. How dare we?
Yeah, so feel guilt now for having the islands as a British territory. And so it goes. So it goes.
No wonder there's a massive uptick in mental health issues in this country. Right, OK, let us take a short break now, because I don't want to keep her waiting. She's very strict. Catherine Burble-Singh, Britain's strictest headmistress, founder and head teacher of the Michaela Community School, is with us just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back, and she's here in the studio, best behaved. Am I dressed okay? Am I smart enough in my presenting uniform? Turned out nicely. Mind your P's and stand up. The headmistress has come into the room.
I did indeed.
Right. Catherine, thank you for being here in the studio. Now, it's amazing someone who's done such brilliant things in education and shown the world that you can take an inner city, multiracial school and have it function extremely well. And for some reason, this has invited a lot of controversy. Make that make sense. But you've apparently been disinvited from speaking at an Oxford Union debate on British identity. Funny, some of our brightest and best who go to Oxbridge don't seem to understand the concept of debate. What's gone on?
Well, I mean, they asked me to take part in this debate on multiculturalism, and we had to pick a date and so on. My poor PA wrote 4 times. We called up, and then they just suddenly disappeared. And I've since discovered, and so I was not part of the debate, they never responded, and I've since discovered that Carl Benjamin, who was also meant to be part of the debate, he was actually on the opposite side from me. He was disinvited on the very day of the debate. And I suspect with him, they gave him a reason. They haven't given me a reason.
What was the reason they gave to him, do you know?
Because of something he'd said on social media. So the thing is that, I suspect it's something I've said that they don't like, and then they discover this, so they ask someone to come. Paul Embry last year, same thing happened to him. This has happened to numerous people over the last few years. And I would urge all of your viewers who are interested in this to read Adrian Hilton's piece on the Oxford Union and its corruption in a Conservative Home, where he explains that they're actually being sued at the moment by someone who, again, had issues with the way in which they were presented. They have all kinds of financial issues. They're on the brink of financial collapse. This year, they're meant to make a 400,000 lost, and they only have 800,000 in reserves. So they're literally on the brink of financial collapse. And this is because of massive mismanagement from various students who are, I think, they believe they're morally superior and morally infallible, and they think they have the right to judge all these different people, and they've created. Well, the union is no longer what it once was, and they've created a space to push their political agendas through. And if you don't fit, then they won't let you speak. That's from to be honest, I didn't know this until this happened to me, and then I started reading and thinking, my goodness, this is the Oxford Union, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people at home might be thinking, well, who cares? It's just a bunch of kids at a world-renowned university. It's not the real world. It's not us. And they want to have their little debating society. Let them get on with it. But the thing is, it's a very important debating society, a very important university, but it's indicative of something really quite grotesque going on in society, but especially among the younger generations, our future leaders.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So that's the thing that I find so shocking, and people don't realise what's going on, that people talk about Gen Z in the workplace and how they are different to previous generations. People haven't yet seen Gen Alpha. And I know what's happening in our schools. And the reason why these young people behave like this, so the reason why they get so angry and why they think they are morally superior is that they think there are just good guys and bad guys in the world. And that's because of the way they've been taught at school. If you ask any young person what they've learned in history at school, they'll tell you Hitler. And then they'll tell you slavery. And then they'll tell you that the British are bad and that the brown and black countries of the world are good. That's how the world is framed for them, in this very simplistic way of just seeing everything as good guys and bad guys. And they believe, obviously, they are the good guys, and it is for them to go around judging everyone, as opposed to understanding that we are all flawed, and that life is complicated. The adult world is complicated. The problem is that when they're young, it's one thing, but these young people grow up. And I think many of us, I've been shouting about this for decades. Many of us just don't understand what we're doing to our young people, and how it's the young people who in the end will be in positions of power. And that's why the Oxford Union matters, because it used to be a place of great respect and authority, and nowadays it's just a bit of a joke.
I mean, two stories that sort of tie into all of this today. The big one, of course, is anti-Semitism, and the fact that our society seems to be riddled with it. And we've got to a point now that young people may have been taught about Hitler, but their grandparents who fought in the Second World War are unlikely, well, great-grandparents now probably, unlikely to be alive. And what we're seeing is this huge uptick in this idea. Like you said, the very sort of puerile idea of Israel bad, Gaza good. And all too often I find the proof is totally inverted. The bad guy becomes a good guy and the good guy becomes a bad guy. And this idea that the teachers' unions are sort of pushing this stuff and pushing the anti-Semitism. You run a very sort of multi-faith, multiracial academy. Do you ever see evidence of anti-Semitism with your young people? Can you see this growing? Are they getting this stuff online? How are you dealing with these things?
Well, they do get things online, but then in a school like ours where we're teaching them small c conservative values of kindness and decency and gratitude and, you know, not to feel entitled, not to feel that the world is divided between white people who have done terrible things and black and brown people who are good. We are very much about the fact that all of us are flawed, we are all human, and therefore we have to take personal responsibility for our own mistakes. We have to have a sense of duty towards others and a sense of service in wanting to give back to the community. These sorts of values have basically disappeared from normal life, and not just in schools. I would just say, generally speaking, people think of schools as places to learn algebra so that you can get a good job, as opposed to, well, where is being a good person? And the understanding of what good person means nowadays is to very much be, live your best life, you do you, and then go out into the world and stop those oppressors, because there are the oppressed and there are the oppressors. Yeah. That is how they see things, partly because of what they are taught in school, partly hugely because of what they see online. If you go on TikTok, I mean, it's just a cesspit of that sort of stuff, where everything is it's not nuanced. There's no discussion to be had on anything. As you just said about the Israel situation, I mean, I, for instance, never really talk about Israel because it's so complex. It's not something that I would feel, you know, in authority to be able to speak about. But we, the adults, have lost our position of authority in schools. It's children who are leading the learning. And I've been talking about this for years and years. People don't take it seriously because people don't take schools seriously, and they don't realize how much power schools have in shaping the future of a country.
Now let's talk about social media, actually, because I came off social media for Lent, and it was almost life-changing. I've never been big on it anyway, but I was really getting it in the neck. I did an interview with some people representing Restore Britain and challenged them on how they would put ethno-nationalism into a policy framework, because I find that quite terrifying, if I'm honest with you. And these crazies online really came for me. I mean, I've had it in the neck from lefties, but I've never had it as bad as I had it from them. And I thought, right, that's it. That's my question answered. That's what I'm going to give up for Lent. But the 40 days where I didn't engage with it, it's like scales fell away from my eyes. And I suddenly thought, this stuff is so dangerous. It is completely reshaping society. Yes. It is poisoning the minds of young people. Yes. Also adults as well. It's not just, you know, people over the age of 18 or 16 don't suddenly become invulnerable to the echo chambers and the algorithms. And that sort of, you know, when you don't have human-to-human contact, where, you know, someone came in right here and attacked you, I would be traumatised. Yes. But if I watch a video online, it's less so. Exactly. So where do you stand on things like social media and young people? Because we're sort of beginning to have this conversation now. Australia's banned it for under 16s. A lot of people on the right wing, which I'm part of, go, wow, free speech and freedom of choice and interfering with parents. I must admit, I'm beginning to move towards Australia.
For years, I have been campaigning to try and get social media and smartphones banned for children. For those who are under 16, we absolutely must ban social media. The fact is, we ban all sorts of things for young people. We don't let them drink alcohol. We don't let them get married. We don't let them have sex or access porn. We don't let them smoke cigarettes. There are a million things that we ban for young people, and that is because we used to understand that it was our role as adults to be in charge of children and to protect them. The idea that they should all be free to do whatever they want is crazy. And the fact is, those very libertarians who are saying freedom, 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 they don't realize what they're storing up, the trouble that, because they don't want the world that these young people are then going to make for them. So the libertarians think that they're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for their death. They don't get it. It's the death of the country if we keep allowing children online in this way, because they are being totally brainwashed by that online world. And it is children, as I've just said, who in 10 years are going to be in positions of power. And in 20 years, God help us all, is all I can say. Those libertarians are fighting for their death while they believe that they're fighting for freedom.
Oh, Catherine, I'm so with you. I always say when people talk about freedom of speech online and and I believe in freedom of speech, of course. I don't believe in censorship, oppression, all the rest of it. But if someone was standing there there in the street handing out as bits of paper some of the propaganda and some of the vile things and the horrible, you know, ideas that people are reading online. They'd be arrested if they were stood in the street giving out this stuff as flyers.
Well, the point is, especially for children.
Yeah.
Like, children are different from adults, and we need to recognise this. And this is where the libertarians meet up with the woke left. Both the woke left and the libertarians believe let children just be children and let them be free, so they can be creative. You can only be creative and able to think for yourself if you've been taught well, and if you've got that bedrock of small c conservative values that I have been preaching for years and years. Without that, and unfortunately our children don't have it these days, only with that can you grow up into an adult who others will admire and respect. And unfortunately, well, we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction.
So this headline's not going to shock you at all, is it? That only 1 in 10 young people think it's important to keep the Falkland Islands. Because, again, it's become so sort of puerile, the way everything framed, you know, good, bad, right, wrong, Britain fundamentally evil, colonisation. It's like they don't even notice the fact that most of the inhabitants of these islands, every single time they're asked, say, we're British, this is where we live. These sort of so-called do-gooder kids who think, well, we should give them back to Argentina would happily just turf all these men and women and their kids off their homeland.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the perfect example. I mean, to be honest, I don't know enough about the Falklands to be able to comment, but the fact is they will immediately see it in the way that you were, the way you just said, which is good, bad, British are bad, therefore you need to do this. The fact is that the idea of knowledge and children having knowledge, frankly, they're just not taught very much of it in school. They don't know much history. And when I said about Hitler, you see, it's just this idea that Hitler is bad. I don't want to be like Hitler. Hitler was some kind of racist, right? And so racism is bad. Therefore, I cannot be a racist. I need to be an anti-racist. And it's not just, it's also those terrible writers like Ibram X. Kendi and all of them since BLM who have completely swayed things so that everyone is just gunning for this idea that, oh my goodness, we must not be racist. And I'm afraid that white people are just so terrified of being racist, they stay quiet. And your ordinary viewers, ordinary listeners need to speak out, because if we don't, we're in trouble.
We were talking about this earlier, weren't we? That this sort of whole anti-racism agenda is dangerous because you've now got situations, the Southport inquiry, the Nottingham inquiry, Valdo Calacane, both times inactivity to deal with dangerous individuals because of the colour of their skin.
But it goes beyond that. Okay, living in Britain are many, many African people of African origin who are utterly repugnantly racist towards anybody from the Asian subcontinent. Okay, we have this racism amongst these communities that are in Britain, but nobody dare speak about it. It's common knowledge. You go into these communities and talk to people and say, my son or my daughter is not marrying somebody from Pakistan or from India because they're entirely racist towards them.
There's racism.
And it goes on. There are other communities
prejudices
that are
and
absolutely rampantly, violently racist towards one another. But no. Let's all talk about the white guilt, shall we?
It's true. Now, we did contact Oxford Union for a comment. We're waiting to hear back, aren't we, Faith?
I got invited to speak at the Oxford Union. Yeah, and then I didn't get invited. They said in my case it was due to a change of chair or something.
Well, they didn't even give me a reason. And they just refused to answer. It's so ill-mannered and so embarrassing.
Before we let you go, can we talk about manners? Because I bet you're a stickler for manners. I was moaning. I get the train back to the West Country, and it's just become commonplace. You get on the train, and every single human being sits there and puts their bag on the seat next to them. And it really winds me up because you paid for one seat, and I would feel guilty if I did that. If I got on the train, sat there, and put something on the seat next to me, I would feel conspicuously bad. I'd be like, oh, I don't do that. That looks antisocial. But I went from one end of the train to the other, long Great Western Rail train, and almost every single person on the train was doing it. And I was like, when did that start happening?
I know. Well, this is the point about you live your best life. You do you. Everyone's out for themselves. There's no sense of duty towards others. And these are old, small c conservative values that we once used to teach children in school and within our families. Whether we lean to the right or to the left politically, they were values that we all held dear. Nowadays, unfortunately, the left seems to abandon them completely, and even on the right we tend to these days be losing our social conservatism.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's just become so feckless and sad. Right, we've got to take a short break. After that, we'll be wrapping up the show, and that gives you an opportunity if you'd like to get in touch. It is the final chance. 03444 99 1000 is the number to dial. It's your normal network rate. You can also send me a WhatsApp message on that number, or probably don't leave me a voice note at this point, because I'm not sure if we'll be able to turn it around in time. But if you want to ping a text, 87222 is the number to do that, like the Wood Talk before your message. Back after this.
Is Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, welcome back, and it's time to speak to you wonderful people out there. Let's begin with Martin in Cambridge. Good afternoon, Martin.
Hello, Alex. It's your favourite race mechanic again. It's basically it's about society and how it's sort of breaking down, and obviously youth unemployment and all the rest of it. And I just think that we have to the broken window situation. And I think we need to introduce a national service again for petty criminals. You do one crime, whether it's drugs or whatever, and we need to turn these people around. And there are thousands of ex-squaddies and all the rest of it who find it difficult to find a job in normal life and all the rest of it. And we can utilise these people. We can turn their lives around as well.
I think that's a genius. So let's talk about this, shall we, Peter? Because I've thought for a while, when we go, oh, no one will pick the fruit and veg in the fields, we've got to bus everybody in from Latvia, Lithuania, Bulgaria to do that. Or, well, no one will do those jobs. The young British people don't want to do them. And I've thought for a long time, hang about, when my mum was growing up in Evesham, market garden town, she picked fruit and veg. But what about things like ex-cons or people in Borstalls are coming out the other side who need socialising, or, people who've committed petty crimes? I'm not saying let's make chain gangs, but I kind of think the idea of, right, you've done wrong, give back, get down that farmer's field, and actually ex-squaddies or whatever could be used to oversee such projects. Is that a mad idea? Because I think that makes sense.
OK, first and foremost, I do not want to heap the detritus of society onto our armed forces. I want our armed forces to be fit, efficient, and ready to go to war for our country. I don't want them to be lumbered with knocking ne'er-do-wells into shape. However, community punishments I'm a big fan of, but the problem is they're not imposed properly, they're not managed properly, they don't really happen as they should do. And this is across the board now, so often with these community resolutions that they're so
What happens on
called.
those community resolutions
Nonsense.
then?
People have orders applied to them and they don't abide by them. If you actually knew how many people were wanted for breach of orders,
So
it's just
I mean, look,
astonishing.
I'm a good girl. I've never been in trouble with the law. So what happens? You know, you go and you've kicked in Foot Locker. It's always Foot Locker. And then someone goes, right, you've got to do community service. You've got to go and scrub some graffiti or pick up litter or whatever. What happens then? Do people just not turn? Well, I don't know. What happens?
Those who run those courses want an easy life.
Yeah.
They are not ex-military servicemen and women who will impose discipline, who will ensure timekeeping, and who will not be afraid to write somebody down as being non-compliant. But of course, they don't want to be sent back to the courts. The establishment don't want them being sent back to the court. Let's have some truth bombs about the criminal justice system at the moment, right? Magistrates and judges are being told, do not send people to prison because there aren't any
There's no
spaces.
space, yeah.
This comes directly to me from a senior magistrate just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, they're being told, don't send people to prison under any circumstances unless it's utterly, truly inescapable that has to be the resolution, because this government wants to get down all the court backlog of cases so they can turn around and say, look what we've achieved. Yeah, but actually that's by not punishing anybody properly. Yeah. That's the subtext to it. It's the same as what it's going to be with immigration. It will be, look how we've got down the asylum waiting list.
Because now they're all British,
Because, yeah, exactly. It's the sleight of hand, which we can all see through, but they think that we're stupid and we won't. But that's why we need to talk about it on channels like this. It's very, very important. Criminal justice system is a shambles. I would be very happy of a weekend to be driving past groups of people in high-vis, litter picking, graffiti removing, doing all those kind of things by way of a community punishment. Where do you see it? Call in, let us know. I doubt you'll see it tonight anywhere.
Don't call in and let us know, because we probably won't have time to take any more calls, unfortunately. But you know, Martin, I think you're onto something. I was speaking to some guys who run a charity all about ex-convicts, and we need people when they've been through prison who are supposed to be rehabilitated to be able to function in the workplace. Otherwise they end up joining the gangs of old, and you know, nothing really changes. And I've often thought to myself, I don't know why we keep saying we've got to import all of this foreign workforce when we've got men and women who are probably young, fit and able to do those jobs, who find it difficult to get jobs and need things on their CVs. And we've got, like you said, a lot of veterans who are sort of left destitute. And I kind of think if you add it all up together and join the dots, there might be a solution in there somewhere. A one, you know, what is it? Bird, stone, kill.
One size fits all.
One size fits all, kill two birds with one stone, that sort of thing. There you go.
Yeah. The thing is, Alex, I've got a friend who did 3 tours of Afghanistan, and when he came back, he was in a right state. And we got him on the back on the straight and narrow, and he's doing really well. But there were lots of these guys and girls who they need something, and it's not just them. It's like I say, we have hundreds of thousands of these youngsters who have lost their way. There is no society is in decline. The social structure is decaying. Everybody's just on a free for all, and we need to go on a war footing. If there are hundreds of thousands of these kids who are basically causing mayhem across the country, that the state has to step in, and we need societal discipline again. We bring back national service. We get all these waste and strays and all these petty criminals in the army, manned by ex-squaddies and all the rest of it, and we have to put some money in. It would save us billions in crime, in social deprivation, in everything. And you can actually turn these people around. We actually want people in the army, and you never know, a certain proportion of them might actually want to join up. And we have to do something. It's getting to a point now where we are literally decaying. This country
I know. It does feel like the 11th hour, Martin. It really does. Right, we're going to love you and leave you because I want to get through some messages before we finish for the day. Now, Ash in Slough has said, what do you think about locating all asylum seekers and new immigrants in areas that vote accordingly? It may be a reality check for the luxury belief classes. I used to say that, Ash. I'll tell you why I disagree with you, right? It's because those people who think, oh, it's lovely, refugees welcome, don't have to live with them in their neighbourhoods, so they get to live in this sort of bubble of fantasy. But the thing is,